Chapter 611. When Obito saw that Black Zetsu went to look for Kabuto with his order, he didn't stay in the same place and did nothing. Obito also made hand seals and cast a ninjutsu. After putting his palms together, Obito slowly squatted down and put one hand on the ground, while the other hand was still making hand seals to maintain the output of chakra. A large amount of chakra was transmitted from Obito's hands to the ground, and black runes were condensed from chakra. The runes formed a formation, and the formation was activated under the stimulation of chakra. Boom! 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 A series of explosions sounded, and 6 white clouds of smoke appeared in the air around Obito. Rinnegan itself has the effect of controlling the body of others and giving them certain special abilities, but at this moment, Obito only has one Rinnegan, so Obito referred to Kabuto's method of controlling the Edo Tensei, and combined the method of summoning and controlling the Edo Tensei with the method of creating 6 paths doppelgangers with Rinnegan to summon several dead column force with the method of Edo Tensei. Using runes to control their bodies, and then injecting the power of 6 paths from Rinnegan into the bodies of several column force summoned by Edo Tensei, the bodies summoned by Edo Tensei were transformed to a certain extent. All the Jinchuriki summoned by the Edo Tensei are under the dual control of the Rinnegan and Edo Tensei, and to a certain extent, it also increases the strength of these Jinchuriki whose strength has decreased after the Edo Tensei. These are the 6 paths doppelgangers of column force that Obito specially created for his own plan. Moreover, the role of these 6 paths doppelgangers was not only to enhance the combat power of his own side, but also to strengthen the power of these column force summoned by Edo Tensei. At the same time, it was also to stabilize the Geto Mazo that had gathered the aura of 7-tailed beasts. These 6 paths doppelgangers of column force actually had a large number of tailed beast chakra in their bodies, helping them to perform the tailed beast mode to enhance their strength, and also to prevent the Geto Mazo from showing signs of going berserk due to the increasing power in their bodies. Yujito Nito, Yagura, Rashi, Fan, Yugao, and Fuku, from Nibi to the 7 former column force, all gathered here. Their bodies showed the characteristics of the Edo Tensei, and their eyes turned into a strange combination of left and right Sharingan. Although these eyes made them feel inexplicably out of place, the oppressive aura from them, it was enough to let everyone who saw them know that they were not to be trifled with them. They were all 6 paths doppelgangers that he could fully control and communicate with. Obito didn't say anything polite to them and simply gave them his orders. Cooperate fully with the Edo Tensei summoned by Kabuto, and do your best to help the Edo Tensei to suppress the ninja allied forces. Force the ninja allied forces to not hold back in the slightest. After hearing Obito's order, the 6 paths doppelgangers immediately took action and disappeared in front of Obito. On the other hand, Obito raised the Uchiha round fan on his back, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. Judging from the ninja allied forces' current fighting style, they were actually delaying as much as possible, and then hoping to drag the Akatsuki, which didn't have a strong foundation, into the abyss of defeat through a war of attrition. However, Uchiha Obito himself didn't want the battle to become an endless battle of attrition. Although relying on the characteristics of the Edo Tensei and the White Zetsu clone army, the consumption of Akatsuki's combat strength was almost negligible, but the longer the battle dragged on, the easier it was for variables to occur. To be honest, even in Uchiha Obito's view, his Eye of the Moon project was actually not so perfect. Once the time dragged on for a long time, the ninja allied forces would find a way to stop him from performing the Eye of the Moon project, and Obito's wish to see his beloved again and make the ninja world be in eternal peace will fail. Originally, I wanted to use external pressure to force the 9 Tails column force and the Hachibi column force to fight, but from the current situation, the reason why the 5 great ninja villages put the remaining 2 column force in the ninja allied forces camp is actually to protect and monitor them. After all, the strongest force of the 5 great ninja villages is the ninja allied forces at this moment. Although they are in the battlefield, the place where the ninja allied forces are stationed is also the place with the highest protection. The Hachibi column force and the 9 Tails column force are both impulsive. Once they are really imprisoned in a remote and hidden place, as long as they come in contact with the information on the battlefield, then they will do their best to escape from such imprisonment. They may even clash with those who guard them, providing an opportunity for me to capture them. Sure enough, there are still smart people in the ninja allied forces. It's better to let them go, especially Column Force, who seems to be a little irritable and violent because of the chakra's influence. I want to give them a chance to fight, but not really put them in danger. With such a move, it's really hard to say whether it's Shikaku Nara's proposal or Minato Watergate's order. Uchiha Obito himself was also very calm about the situation, but even if he noticed that the ninja allied forces didn't want Column Force to fight, Uchiha Obito still seemed to have some wisdom in his hand. Controlling people's hearts is not only the unique ability of Minato Watergate and Shikaku Nara. After so many years of experience, Uchiha Obito naturally has his own unique understanding of people's hearts. The ninja allied forces' way of dealing with the two-column force is indeed very unique and the effect is outstanding, but there is still an inevitable flaw, that is, column force is not a fool without intelligence. It may not be easy to find out that he is being comforted in such a way in the beginning, but once he is comforted in such a way from the beginning to the end, no one will be able to accept it. This kind of rejection is not a temporary accident, but an inevitable outbreak of doubts in his heart after a long time of precipitation. Now that Naruto and Killer Bee have been treated like this for a while, as long as all the doubts and dissatisfaction in their hearts are ignited in a suitable way, it will certainly blossom very interesting fireworks, right? Chapter 6:12. On the battlefield, the ninjas of the Allied forces fought fiercely against the White Zetsu clones. With the passage of time, the special ability of the White Zetsu clones was restrained. In fact, the scales of victory were slowly tilting towards the Allied forces. The White Zetsu clones were largely destroyed. This situation also made everyone in the Allied forces full of confidence. Although this battle is difficult, the Allied forces will definitely win. Although this war is very dangerous, as long as everyone works together to fight against the Akatsuki, victory will definitely belong to them. Humans were mystical creatures. As long as they had faith, they would erupt with power that was beyond common sense. And this faith is precisely the difference between the White Zetsu army and the Allied forces. Obviously, the White Zetsu army has been performing normally, whether it is individual strength or tacit understanding between each other, they have reached the textbook level. But when facing the ninja allied forces, the White Zetsu army immediately showed a decadent appearance, and there were even some absurd scenes of defeat. Obviously, they are the stronger side, but they are being pressed on the ground. Everyone, come on. The defeat of the White Zetsu army is already set. As long as you and I work together, the White Zetsu army is just a chicken and a dog, not worth mentioning. As the leader of the melee forces, Kitsuchi naturally saw the situation of the reversal of the battle, and his very forthright temperament at this moment made people feel particularly comfortable. Under the encouragement of Kitsuchi, the ninjas from different villages were also in high spirits at this moment. One by one, they raised their weapons and roared. Ha ha ha! Everyone, let's rush up with me. Hearing the excitement of his subordinates, Kitsuchi may also feel that the hearts of the people are useful, so he immediately began to chase after the White Zetsu army. Ridiculous! Seeing that Kitsuchi actually led his subordinates to chase after the White Zetsu army, as the leader of the long-range attack force, Shikamaru Nara's eyes flashed with a trace of anger. The White Zetsu army is different from the ordinary army. Instead of saying that they are different independent individuals, it is better to say that they are puppets with the same mind control. How can such an army be judged by common sense? Seeing that the enemy was beginning to crumble, he directly led his subordinates to chase after them without caring about anything else. War is never a game that can be led by personal guesses. War requires a comprehensive plan and rational analysis. Shikamaru Nara frowned slightly, but he quickly made a decision. Ninja allied forces, listen to my orders. Everyone, start preparing defensive ninjutsu. Once the situation changes, we will immediately support the melee forces that are chasing the White Zetsu army. Close combat troops are an important force against Edo Tensei and even the entire Akatsuki organization. We can't afford to lose. It has to be said that although Shikamaru Nara had a lazy temperament, when he really shouldered the responsibility, he would exude a strange personality charm. Everyone who was close to Shikamaru Nara in this state couldn't help but admire Shikamaru. Although the original intention of the long-range attack team was to roam the battlefield in small teams, when needed, they would rush to the rescue of all friendly units. But when Shikamaru Nara passed down his orders, no matter which village they came from, almost all of them put down their affairs as much as possible and gathered directly. Magnet Release, Golden Dust Burial. Dust Release, Primitive World Detachment Jutsu. Just when the ninja allied forces were constantly chasing the White Zetsu army, the sound of two ninjutsu being cast directly echoed in the battlefield. Magnet Release and Dust Release. Almost all the ninjas on the battlefield began to think about who cast these two Kekkei Genkai and even Kekkei Genkai elimination, but the ninjas of the ninja allied forces didn't need to guess. The person who cast these two ninjutsu spoke again, making his voice reverberate throughout the battlefield. I am Tsunagekyu's fourth dame, Kazekage Raza. Don't be impulsive, immediately withdraw from the attack range of my golden dust burial. Otherwise, even if we don't say that everyone will be in danger, we will definitely be injured. I am Iwagakyu's second dame, Tsuchikage Kage. Don't touch my ninjutsu, dust release will decompose everything it touches. The chakra contained in the dust release is enough to kill thousands of people. After receiving the warning, although the ninjas of the allied forces were a little stunned, they still listened to the words of the two Kages. Although there were still some people who were unlucky, and their abilities weren't strong enough, and they were affected by Raza and Wuji's ninjutsu, but overall, the allied forces didn't suffer too much loss. Now both of us are under the control of Yakushi's pocket, but because Yakushi's pocket needs to control too many people, it can't completely control our consciousness. So after we are controlled to cast any ninjutsu, we will immediately tell you the corresponding method to break it. You must be careful, although our strength has decreased, it's not something that ordinary non-Kage level ninjas can resist. Looking at the shinobi alliance formed by the various major shinobi villages in the battle, as well as some information about the current situation of the shinobi world under the control of Kabuto, although Raza found it hard to believe that the shinobi of the 5 major shinobi villages gathered together to fight against a single organization. After all, some of them were shinobi villages that he once led, and Raza wouldn't abandon this shinobi village that he deeply loved. With Raza and Wuji joining the battlefield, all the other ninjas summoned by Yakushi's Edo Tensei also joined the battle one after another. With the addition of these dead people, the battle situation that had already become clear became even more complicated and confusing. And don't know whether it was Yakushi's intentional planning or an unintentional coincidence, most of the ninjas summoned by Edo Tensei have a close relationship with the high-ranking members of the allied forces. The complicated relationship between the living and the dead brought about endless troubles. The Fourth Shinobi World War, it seems that from this moment on, all the participants of the war were in a terrible state. Chapter 613. On the main battlefield, strong people who had already passed away were constantly summoned by Kabuto using Edo Tensei. One by one, strong people who had already passed away joined the battle, which naturally made the ninjas on the battlefield and the personnel responsible for commanding the battle in the headquarters feel great pressure. It seems that the current situation on the battlefield is not so good. Uzumaki Naruto stood in the headquarters of the allied forces, watching the ninjas rushing to the battlefield from the headquarters. Naruto was also very keenly aware of the changes in the battle situation. To be honest, from the heart of Naruto, in fact, Naruto hoped that he could set foot on the battlefield and fight with Akatsuki organization. But during this period of time, all the tasks assigned to him intentionally or unintentionally avoided the conflict with Akatsuki organization. But these tasks were either to protect the evacuation of important personnel or to transport materials, and the level of each task was also not low, which made Naruto no longer have an excuse to change the task with his father. After asking Killer Bee, Hachibi Column Force, Naruto found that Killer Bee seemed to be similar to himself during this period of time. He was assigned a lot of very important tasks, but there was no conflict with Akatsuki organization. Although Naruto and Killer Bee were not so willing to guess the temperament of others, but the very similar experience of the two still made Naruto feel that something was wrong. The allied forces of ninja seems to have intentionally limited himself and Killer Bee within a certain range, letting the two of them complete the mission that can be completed by ordinary ninjas, and then directly separating the two of them from Akatsuki. So that Akatsuki organization has no way to find the two of them, column force, and the two of them can't meet the members of Akatsuki organization. Dad, is it because you don't want me to go up and fight with those bastards of Akatsuki organization? Such a way of doing things was too familiar to Naruto. He didn't have the slightest hint of falling out, nor did he directly tell you the truth. Through various indirect and directional guidance, he unknowingly led you to the script that the fourth Hokage, Minato, arranged for you. To be honest, Naruto doesn't like this way of doing things and attitude, but Wave Watergate is after all Naruto's father, and the leader of a village. As a person who could decide the life and death of countless people with a single thought, it was normal for Shadow to be cautious and thoughtful. Naruto has no position to condemn his father, because everything done by Wave Watergate is impeccable. Using one by one, you completely can't refuse to guide you step by step, and in the end you will find that everything you do is the result expected by Watergate, and you can't find any reason to refute. Those guys of Akatsuki organization will absolutely not give up. Even if you use this way to stop me, Akatsuki organization will still use all kinds of ways to appear in front of me. Akatsuki organization is an organization full of dark souls, and almost everyone in this organization is particularly paranoid. Although Naruto didn't have any direct contact with the masked man who provoked the Fourth Shinobi World War, and called himself Uchiha Madara, but it doesn't affect Naruto to label the masked man a common label common to most of the members of Akatsuki organization. Such paranoid people can even be said to be obsessed with the wrong way is very terrible. When they recognize one thing, they will do it regardless of the consequences and the risks they may bear. So although he doesn't know what kind of method Akatsuki organization will use to suddenly appear in front of him, Naruto can be very sure that no matter what kind of inescapable net the allied forces have arranged, Akatsuki organization will certainly appear in front of him in order to collect tailed beasts. Just when Naruto was a little bit sighing, a space ripple silently appeared behind Naruto, and Uchiha Obito's body appeared out of thin air in the jungle behind Naruto, silently like a viper preparing to capture its prey. Chakra secretly condensed in his hand, and mixed with the power of Rinnegan to create a black iron rod which has a very significant suppressive effect on chakra directly appeared in the hand of Obito. Be careful, Naruto boy. Behind you, there seems to be a bit familiar and disgusting aura. 9 tails hidden in Naruto's body, compared to Naruto's own perception ability, almost when Uchiha Obito condensed chakra iron rod and prepared to attack Naruto, 9 tails immediately warned Naruto to dodge. The familiar and disgusting feeling in 9 tails' mouth was naturally the same feeling that 9 tails himself was pulled out of the body of the 9 tails column force vortex Shina Kushina more than 10 years ago. The moment he was pulled out, 9 tails was controlled by Manjikyu Sharingan. The person who released 9 tails from the seal and then controlled him with his Manjikyu Sharingan is naturally standing behind Naruto at this moment. Although there are some changes in his attire, he still exudes an aura that 9 tails is familiar with and disgusted with. After hearing 9 tails' reminder and being vigilant for no reason, Naruto immediately displayed the 9 tails chakra mode. Golden chakra flames and black runes covered Naruto's body in an instant. And under the 9 tails chakra mode, Naruto's physical fitness and speed have increased to a level that ordinary ninja can't reach. Leaving a golden afterimage in the air, Naruto's figure has already left the place. And almost the moment after Naruto left the place where he stood just now, Uchiha Obito's figure wearing a gray-white mask, wearing a dark blue robe, and holding a black iron rod appeared in the place where Naruto stood just now. Looking at Uchiha Obito's posture, it was obvious that he was ready to attack Naruto just now. Are you that bastard Uchiha Madara? Looking at the place where he stood just now, Naruto shouted at the masked Uchiha Obito. If the person who appeared in front of Naruto was really the arrogant Uchiha Madara, maybe he would immediately attack Naruto. But after all, Obito is relying on his impression of the old and weak Uchiha Madara to act as a more mature and stable Uchiha Madara, so at this moment, Obito didn't immediately attack Naruto. Instead, he pointed his black iron rod at Naruto and said with appreciation, "Not bad, you can predict my attack in advance, and can use Nine Tails chakra so skillfully. It seems that even if I kill you, you are qualified to become part of my Six Paths clone." Chapter 6:14. So that's how it is. So you want to take away the tailed beast in my body, kill me, and turn me into a weapon in your hand to suppress everyone in front of you, right? Although Obito just said it casually, Naruto still combined some of the information he knew and analyzed a lot of Uchiha Obito's own plans from Obito's words. After hearing Naruto's words, even Uchiha himself was a little surprised. After all, in the information collected by Uchiha Obito, it was pointed out that although Naruto sometimes did some ingenious things, in general, he was still like a fool who wasn't good at using his brain. But now, it seems that Naruto didn't seem to be as bad as the information said. In fact, he even hit the nail on the head. You're not as bad as the information said. Hearing Obito's words, Naruto felt the surging tailed beast chakra in his body. His eyes became dignified, then he said to Obito, "It's useless to say more, let's fight." The golden chakra instantly condensed into two giant hands behind Naruto. Chakra's giant hands immediately clenched into fists and attacked Obito. The fists, which were almost the size of a millstone, attacked Uchiha Obito with overwhelming and unstoppable momentum. Uchiha Obito gently pulled the black iron staff in his hand and rushed directly in the direction of Chakra's giant hands without any intention of dodging. Unlike the previous times when Uchiha Obito faced Hyuga Takuma and Killer Bee, this time Obito didn't use his Kamui to make his body invisible and avoid Naruto's attack. Instead, he clenched the black iron staff in his hand, and a layer of slightly turbid mist-like gas with unknown attributes wrapped around the black iron staff. Like a sharp blade cutting through cloth, the black iron staff also directly broke through the giant hands condensed by Nine Tails chakra. Seeing that his chakra's giant hands were broken, Naruto didn't show any excessive shock, because this giant hand attack with almost no technical content was originally used by Ming-Ri to test Uchiha Obito's strength. When Naruto analyzed the physical strength and chakra waves that burst out from Obito's body when he cut his chakra's giant hands, a result that even Naruto didn't want to believe appeared in Naruto's mind. This conclusion is not a happy one but not a worried one. But it's also a happy one. Because Naruto found that this Uchiha Madara, who was standing in front of him, and kept saying that he would extract the tailed beast from his body and then use him as a weapon, is actually weaker than him in both physical and mental aspects. A shocking thought appeared in Naruto's mind. Could it be that this Uchiha Madara, the actual leader of Akatsuki, is actually a fake? Relying on his own special ability and acting skills, he deceived and played with everyone. If the truth is really like this, then doesn't it mean that as long as I find a way to restrain the masked man's special ability, I can completely kill this fake who doesn't have any powerful strength? The surprise in Naruto's eyes was because it came suddenly, so he didn't hide it at all. Standing in front of Naruto, the masked Obito naturally saw all the emotions in Naruto's eyes. Although he didn't know what Naruto was surprised about, but he still had a faint sense of crisis in his heart. He always felt that something important about him was spied on by Naruto. Although such a reason came without any reason, Obito still chose to believe in his intuition. No matter what, today he must not let Naruto escape from his hands. After making up his mind, Uchiha Obito also rushed in the direction of Naruto with two sharp black iron sticks in his hands. Naruto himself is not the kind of ninja who is particularly good at ninjutsu. Among the ninjutsu mastered by Naruto, he can only be regarded as proficient in Rasengan and Shadow Clone Jutsu. Although many variations of Rasengan have appeared under the joint research of Naruto and Watergate, but such a ninjutsu has its own limitations after all. it's not as strange and secretive as other ninjutsu, it's only suitable for frontal combat. Controlling Nine Tails chakra to recondense 2 chakra hands behind him, and with a wave of the hands, Rasengan with a bit of golden halo floated directly behind Naruto. Futon, Rasengan. Behind Naruto, 6 Rasengan were suspended in the air. But Naruto did not immediately release these Rasengan in the direction of Obito. Instead, he continued to inject chakra from Nine Tails into these Rasengan. The golden chakra flame spread to the Rasengan, and in a flash, the Rasengan became as dazzling as a small sun. Watching Naruto turn the original blue Rasengan into a golden chakra flame ball, Obito suddenly felt a little vigilant in his heart. Although doing this can indeed improve the power of Rasengan, Obito always faintly felt that Naruto seems to have other plans. Go! Chakra surged, and the 6 golden flame Rasengan suspended behind Naruto directly moved under the control of Naruto. These 6 golden flame Rasengan under the control of Naruto attacked directly in the direction of Uchiha Obito with an unpredictable trajectory. To be honest, seeing Naruto fight in such a way, Uchiha Obito was not worried. Because Uchiha Obito has the almost cheating ninjutsu, Kamui, if he wants to defeat him, he can only suppress him with space ninjutsu. But according to Uchiha Obito's understanding, the only person in this ninja world who has some attainments in space ninjutsu is the Yondaime-sama Naruto, Watergate. In fact, the application of space ninjutsu is a little rough, and it is very unrealistic to suppress Uchiha Obito who has the Mangekyo Dojutsu, Kamui, in space ninjutsu. In other words, although Uchiha Obito is not invincible in terms of personal strength, but in a battle with his own special ability, Uchiha Obito can be said to be in an invincible position. Chapter 6:15. Because of Naruto's control of the Golden Flame Rasengan, Obito had no way to accurately determine from which angle the 6 Golden Flame Rasengan will attack him. But does Obito really need to know from which angle these Golden Flame Rasengan will attack him? What Obito needed to do was to predict in advance when these Golden Flame Chakra balls will attack him, and then directly integrate his body into his Kamui dimension to avoid them. So at this moment, Obito actually looked at the 6 Golden Flame Rasengan that were rushing towards him in a mysterious trajectory with sarcasm in his eyes. He said to Naruto in an arrogant tone, but he didn't know it. I know what you're scheming. But Uzumaki Naruto, I still want to tell you a truth that even a 3-year-old child knows, in the face of absolute strength, any calculation is meaningless. Even if you can borrow the chakra of 9 tails, so what? Even if your research on Rasengan is profound, so what? In front of me, you can only get one thing, and that is failure. After activating Kamui, Obito's body instantly became full of an illusory aura. At this moment, although the Golden Flame Rasengan was constantly changing in a mysterious trajectory, after all, it didn't reach the expected position of Naruto, so the dispersion was not so obvious. Seeing Obito suddenly rushing towards himself, Naruto didn't panic at all. He directly controlled the 6 Golden Flame Rasengan to attack Uchiha's head, heart, and limbs. But after these Rasengan touched Obito's body, they directly penetrated his body, just like all the previous attacks that tried to attack Obito. However, Naruto didn't seem to lose his mind because his Golden Flame Rasengan didn't work. Instead, he directly controlled the Rasengan that directly penetrated Obito's body and rushed towards the sky. Under the control of Naruto, the 6 Rasengan directly collided with each other at the same time. It was already late at night, and the 6 Rasengan burning with Golden Flame Rasengan were already very conspicuous when they flew into the sky. When the 6 Golden Flame Rasengan containing a lot of chakra collided with each other, the huge explosion of energy also caused a great impact. The golden flame spread directly from the place where the 6 Rasengan collided as the center. It was as if a golden cloud suddenly appeared in the dark sky, dazzling and eye-catching. Even the bright and huge full moon before could only hide its existence next to the golden flame cloud at this moment. So that's how it is, your attack is just a cover, your real idea is to inform other ninjas to summon more ninjas to fight me? Looking at Naruto, who was wrapped in the golden flame chakra raiment, Uchiha Obito said slowly with a little appreciation. Although he was not afraid of an increase in the number of enemies, the more people he had to fight, the more likely it was that they would hurt him while he was casting his Kamui ability. Not to mention, if Hatake Kakashi, whose ability originated from the same source as his, came to his aid, it was very likely that he would be hindered. Now, after all, the Jubi has not been resurrected, and Obito believes that his strength is not enough to fight so many ninjas without exposing his true identity. If he can win, he will fight; if he can't win, he will say some harsh words and then take the opportunity to leave. This has always been Obito's attitude, and it is this cautious attitude, coupled with Obito's control of people's hearts, that Obito can manage the name Uchiha Madara so perfectly. Now such a name can't be abandoned so easily, so Obito's heart at this moment has already sprouted the idea of retreating. However, Obito is still very concerned about what Naruto found on his body just now, or what is wrong with him. If he leaves directly, will Naruto tell Minato Watergate about what he found on his body? After all, Naruto's identity is different from ordinary ninjas, the Nine Tails, Column Force, and the son of Hokage, so every word Naruto says will be taken seriously. If Naruto directly reports his prediction of Uchiha Obito's strength to the Allied Ninja Command, then after hearing such news, although they can't immediately judge the accuracy of the news, at least Hokage and Kazekage, who have a very close relationship with Naruto, will definitely believe in Naruto's judgment. If the situation really becomes like this, then the situation of the battlefield will definitely have some unexpected changes. The current battlefield itself is a certain distance from Obito's expectations to a certain extent. If there is any change outside of his control, it will undoubtedly cause a great obstacle to Obito's ultimate goal, the Eye of the Moon Project. The Eye of the Moon Project itself is the goal of Uchiha Obito's struggle for decades. Obito gave up a lot of things for this project, and even threw his soul into the darkness, doing a lot of things against his own heart. After paying so much, it is really difficult for Obito to accept the failure of the Eye of the Moon Project. When Naruto entered the Nine Tails chakra mode, he can keenly perceive the kindness and malice of others. At this moment, the evil intention of killing and the idea of temporary retreat came one after another in Uchiha Obito's body. But in the end, the evil intention of killing still took the dominant position. Sure enough, a battle can't be avoided. The reason why Naruto adopted such a strategy is in fact, hoping to put pressure on Obito's heart, so that Obito will have some self-awareness and directly retreat. After all, at Naruto's level of strength, as long as he starts to fight with all his strength, every move will cause a great impression. The 6 golden flame Rasengan that Naruto used casually before could directly produce a golden flame that covered half of the sky and covered the brilliance of the moon. But for Naruto, such an attack wasn't much different from a casual punch. In Naruto's heart, he hoped that Uchiha Obito can retreat by himself and leave the battle on the battlefield, but now it seems that this expectation is obviously in vain. Chapter 6:16. Although the outcome was not the same as what he expected, after all, Obito is an enemy that he can't avoid, and he will encounter such a situation sooner or later, won't he? But when Naruto's heart was really ready to fight Uchiha Obito, he finally once again examined the comparison of strength between himself and Uchiha Obito. Originally, Naruto thought that Uchiha Obito was an existence that surpassed him in all aspects, but through the contact just now, Naruto has discovered that Uchiha Obito, the masked man who called himself Uchiha Madara, is actually not a super powerhouse that he can't resist at all. On the contrary, Uchiha Obito's physical fitness and chakra storage are not as good as him. After discovering this, Naruto actually found some opportunities to win. As long as he can find a way to deal with Uchiha Obito's strange space ability, then Naruto will be able to defeat Uchiha Obito. At this moment, Uchiha Obito was fighting Naruto with the intention of leaving Naruto here, but Naruto also faintly hoped that he can defeat Uchiha Obito here, and then directly kill this dangerous character who caused the Fourth Shinobi World War. At the same time, Naruto and Obito's eyes showed the light of excitement and expectation for the battle. Almost at the same time, Naruto directly used Nine Tails' chakra mode to cast the body flicker technique and disappeared, and Uchiha Obito also used his Mangekyo Dojutsu, Kamui, to directly escape into the Kamui space. The entire battlefield seemed to have completely disappeared at this moment, but every very short period of time, Naruto and Obito's figures would appear in a certain corner of the battlefield. And the moment the two figures appeared, they would immediately attack each other. The Rasengan in Naruto's hand and the black iron rod in Obito's hand collided again and again, but after the collision, Naruto and Obito seemed to have a tacit understanding and disappeared again to prepare for the next collision. To be honest, the repeated collisions also consumed a lot of chakra and physical strength of Naruto and Obito. Because Obito used Mangekyo Dojutsu from his bloodline, the consumption of chakra and physical strength was much less than that of Naruto. Although Mangekyo Sharingan's Dojutsu will cause the caster to lose his light, most of Obito's body was cloned from first Hokage Senju Takuma's cells, so the consumption of Mangekyo Sharingan's power is almost negligible. Naruto himself is an Uzumaki, and has an extremely strong body and a huge amount of chakra storage. And at this moment, Naruto has almost unlimited chakra with the help of Nine Tails in his body. Therefore, Naruto and Obito have actually fallen into a battle of attrition at the moment. It's actually very simple to win, as long as the opponent's physical strength or chakra is exhausted. But for Naruto, there is still an advantage. After all, the place where the two of them are fighting is very close to the headquarters of the Allied Ninja Army. Although the movement of the two of them isn't earth-shattering, the golden flame cloud that spread over half of the sky and the powerful chakra fluctuation coming from here has already provided coordinates for the ninjas of the Allied Ninja Army. It won't be long before the Ninja Allied forces will definitely send strong people to support Naruto. Among the ninjas who will come to support Naruto, it is very likely that Minato Watergate and Hatake Kakashi will be among them. After all, one of them is Uzumaki Naruto's father, and the other is Uzumaki Naruto's instructor, and for Obito, these two people are very troublesome people for him. His former teacher and former comrade in arms are exactly the people who can find and even restrain his shortcomings. Hatake Kakashi also has Mangekyo Sharingan, and even the name of his dojutsu is the same as Obito's dojutsu. Not to mention Minato Watergate, during the Third Shinobi World War, he developed the Flying Thunder God Jutsu and improved it by Obito, and directly gained the name Golden Flash in the Shinobi World War, and later became the fourth Hokage of the Woodleaf Village in the Land of Fire. Once these two people really come, then Obito will have to fight against these three people, including Naruto, and the pressure will be too great. On one side of the battlefield, in a place that Obito couldn't see, a figure slowly appeared there. Wearing a white robe, it looked extremely bright and pure under the moonlight. A complicated blood-red pattern representing the blood cloth pavilion was delicately embroidered on the edge of the robe with silk thread, and on the back of the neck of this white robe, there was a red face and white handle fan pattern that was exactly the same as the masked Uchiha Obito's. The person who came had slightly long black hair, sword-like eyebrows, and a cold expression, and a silver long sword was directly in his hand. Huh! Uchiha Madara? Sasuke, who was wearing a white robe, poured chakra into his eyes, and a pair of eternal Mangekyo Sharingan that surpassed Mangekyo Sharingan appeared in Sasuke's eye sockets. Before Sasuke left the Blood Cloak Pavilion, his father, Uchiha Fugaku, had been replanted with a pair of ordinary eyes. After seeing that his father had fully recovered, Sasuke also volunteered to go directly to the battlefield to do his part for the Blood Cloak Pavilion. Nangongja naturally knew that Sasuke was actually worried that his close friend, Uzumaki Naruto, would be captured by Akatsuki, but Naruto also had a very special meaning for Nangongja. After all, Nangongja also watched Naruto grow up little by little, and he also did his duty as a teacher when Naruto was still young. Such a kind of friendship was not easy to erase. During the time Uchiha Sasuke was in the Blood Cloth Pavilion, in addition to waiting for his father's eyes to recover, he also had a preliminary mastery of the power brought by the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Even in a practice with Nangongzhe could only defeat Sasuke by using natural chakra. Such a pitiful creature who only knows how to dodge and only succumb to the darkness. If he is really the strongest person in our Uchiha clan in modern times, it's really sad. Chapter 617. On the battlefield, both Uchiha Obito and Uzumaki Naruto raised their perception ability to the limit. After all, the battle between Uchiha Obito and Naruto was actually a competition to see who would make a huge mistake first, and who would consume their stamina or chakra first. Any small mistake could cause them to fall into an irreversible situation. The two of them couldn't afford to relax at all. But at this moment, Uchiha Obito's heart suddenly had a touch of instinctive vigilance. Even animals have the ability to foresee danger almost like a sixth sense, not to mention Uchiha Obito, who has transplanted a Rinnegan and Senjutsu cells in his body. When he collided with Naruto again, Obito didn't use the black iron rod in his hand to collide with Naruto's Rasengan like before. At this moment, Obito suddenly scattered the six paths aura wrapped around the iron rod in his hand, and collided with the Rasengan with the black iron rod itself. The result was needless to say. The power of the Rasengan completely broke out, but Uchiha Obito himself was ready to meet the impact. With the help of Rasengan's powerful force, he quickly retreated backward. On the contrary, Naruto was stunned by the sudden damage he caused. What the hell is going on? Naruto looked at Uchiha Obito with a little doubt, but as a qualified ninja, Naruto immediately reacted. No matter what the reason is, Uchiha Obito completely endured his attack. Since his attack has already affected Uchiha Obito's body, even if all this is within Uchiha Obito's expectation, his body will inevitably have temporary weakness and chakra disorder because of the huge force of the Rasengan. And this situation is a huge advantage for Naruto. As long as Naruto can hit Uchiha Obito, who can't make his body hollow because of the chakra disorder, doesn't it mean that his side has won the battle? Activating the Nine Tails chakra in his body, Naruto used the body flicker technique that exceeded the limit. Naruto's figure almost instantly appeared beside Uchiha Obito, but obviously, Uchiha Obito's recovery speed is beyond Naruto's imagination. Seeing Naruto suddenly appear beside him, Uchiha Obito immediately controlled his body to hollow, making Naruto's attack directly invalid. Sure enough. Is the troublesome guy coming? Obito directly ignored Naruto, who was standing on his side, and looked into the depths of the forest. Seeing that Obito directly ignored his existence, Naruto's heart couldn't help but become angry. After all, Obito was still fighting with him so seriously just now, but now he completely ignored him. Isn't this like playing with him? He waved his fist at Uchiha Obito's figure again and again, but he still helplessly passed through Uchiha Obito's body again and again. Sure enough, even if he found out that Uchiha Obito is actually weaker than himself, but without the means to restrain his strange space ability, is he still so powerless? You bastard! Looking at Uchiha Obito, Naruto shouted loudly. What's the emotion that can trigger the most anger in a person's heart? Without a doubt, it's the perception that you are powerless. This kind of anger is not only for the person standing opposite you, but also for yourself. Such a double anger, once it starts burning, it won't be so easy to stop. Even in Naruto's heart, he knows very well that he must not lose his mind at this time, but the flame of anger directly burned Naruto from the inside out. Sure enough, are you still the same idiot as before? A slightly cold voice appeared in Naruto's ears. Such a voice was like a clear spring water gathered from ice and snow, directly extinguishing the raging flame burning in Naruto's heart. Even Obito, who has been attacking Uchiha, also stopped. Naruto completely ignored Uchiha Obito at this moment. Instead, he turned his head and looked around, as if trying to find a very familiar figure. Finally, Naruto's line of sight and Uchiha Obito's line of sight fell on the same place. At the foot of the forest, a purple figure stood so tall in the forest. There was no way for the tall trees to hide this huge purple figure. Instead, it made this figure even bigger. Susanoo. Complete form. The figure was almost as huge as a mountain. The purple figure was wearing a heavy purple plate armor, wearing a crow tengu mask, a pair of wings folded behind Susanoo's back, and two swords that looked simple and full of majesty were hanging by Susanoo's waist. At this moment, Susanoo truly corresponded to its name, and stood between the heavens and the earth like a god that had descended to earth. With his enhanced eyesight because of entering the Nine Tails chakra mode, Naruto vaguely saw Sasuke's figure on the huge Susanoo's chest. Sasuke put his hand on his chest and began to print. Susanoo, who was outside, also raised its huge hands and made a hand seal. It looked exactly like Sasuke. Susanoo's Katan's Great Fireball Jutsu. The complete form of Susanoo can cooperate with the person who summoned it to perform ninjutsu, and the power of ninjutsu can be greatly increased. At this moment, Sasuke began to perform ninjutsu with this ability. The original C-level Great Fireball Jutsu, after being blessed by Susanoo, now has the power of a B-level ninjutsu, and the coverage is also very large. Looking at the flames rushing towards them, Naruto and Uchiha Obito also made their own reactions. Body Flicker Jutsu. With the blessing of Nine Tails Chakra, Naruto's figure directly flashed out of the attack range of Great Fireball Jutsu. Katan Storm Dance Reverse. Obito urged his Mangekyo Sharingan to once again use Kamui, and all the flames around him were absorbed into his Kamui space. Chapter 618. Although the range attack ninjutsu that Sasuke used just now actually covered him, Uzumaki Naruto, who was in the Nine Tails chakra mode at this moment, could distinguish a person's kindness and malice, and Sasuke was full of kindness. Although his heart was full of joy of reunion, the strange way of getting along between Naruto and Sasuke still made it impossible for Naruto to directly express his joy of meeting him again. Instead, he said to Sasuke with a bit of fake anger and boredom, "You stoic face, who exactly are you calling an idiot?" Hearing the familiar sarcasm from Naruto, Sasuke's heart was also full of nostalgia. In the past, he, Naruto, and Sakura, didn't they walk forward step by step? But because of the pursuit of strength, he gradually alienated these two people who opened their hearts to him. After experiencing so many things, in fact, Sasuke is no longer as paranoid as he was when he was a child. For the current Sasuke, although he still pursues powerful strength, he is not as blind and desperate as before. Sasuke has also grown a lot, and gradually put his eyes on the things around him. The most obvious thing is that Sasuke no longer escapes from the fetters between himself and Naruto, Sakura, and even more people, but chose to directly face his inner feelings. Since he cherishes them so much, why should he deliberately alienate them? I'm no longer a weak child. With the power I have now, I can be regarded as a person standing at the top of the ninja world. So why don't I do my best to protect these things that I cherish? Of course it's you, you idiot. Don't you know how to use your brain when fighting? Controlling Susanoo, Sasuke and the huge Susanoo rose into the air together, and directly spread the wings behind them and flew towards the place where Naruto and Obito were. Although high in the sky, Sasuke's voice was still very obvious in Naruto's ears. You know that you have no way to deal with the opponent's ability, but you still want to keep the opponent here. At the beginning, you knew how to signal others for help, but at this time, you attacked the enemy like a crazy beast. Saying that you are an idiot is already praising you. After all, you were an idiot before. Being rebuked by Naruto, Sasuke naturally wouldn't be silent, but he also said to Naruto in a sharp tone. And from Sasuke's words, it seems that Sasuke was able to find this battlefield because he saw the flame cloud burst out from Naruto's golden flame Rasengan. Hearing Sasuke's words, Naruto directly jumped, but Sasuke was controlling Susanoo to fly in the sky at this moment, making it difficult for Naruto to realize the idea of fighting a war of words. Looking at the interaction between Sasuke and Naruto, Obito even felt that he had become an outsider. He could only look at Sasuke and Naruto, who seemed to dislike each other but were full of flashbangs. Really envious, no, hateful. Fortunately, at this moment, Naruto and Sasuke still remembered that there was an enemy here. After the two ridiculed each other like this, they also turned their attention to Uchiha Obito. With eternal Manjikyu Sharingan beyond Obito's Manjikyu Sharingan level, Sasuke easily saw through Obito's Manjikyu Sharingan. It was just a Manjikyu Sharingan with the ability to communicate space, but in Obito's body, there was a very pure Uchiha clan bloodline, and the gap between his generation and the current generation was not so big. Although he couldn't accurately judge the age and identity of Uchiha Obito, he was definitely not a person of Uchiha Madara's era. A person who hides his head and shows his tail is not worthy of the name of Uchiha. I, Uchiha Sasuke, the current Uchiha clan head, hereby announce that you are deprived of all rights as the Uchiha clan. The glory of the Uchiha clan will never be allowed to be tarnished by a rat like you. Yes, before leaving the Blood Cloak Pavilion, Sasuke had been officially awarded the title of Uchiha clan head by his father, Uchiha Fugaku, although there were only a few people left in the Uchiha clan at this moment. However, Uchiha Fugaku still held a ceremony worthy of the status of Uchiha clan with the help of Nangongja. At this moment, Uchiha Sasuke was the head of the Uchiha clan. As the head of the Uchiha clan, Sasuke naturally also has the right to expel people from the Uchiha clan and deprive them of their surname. For a long time, Obito thought that he didn't care about his identity as a member of the Uchiha clan. After all, Obito didn't show such amazing talent when he was a child, and the clan's attitude towards Obito was very dull and even indifferent. But when Sasuke really said that he was going to deprive him of his surname, Obito's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. His parents and grandparents were all members of the Uchiha clan. At this moment, he was deprived of the Uchiha surname by the head of the clan, which also means that he no longer has any relationship with his parents and grandparents that can be recognized by the public. So what? The name of Uchiha has long been dispensable to me. Although there was inevitably a touch of sadness in his heart, Obito didn't want to show it in front of Naruto and Sasuke. Instead, he continued to force himself to speak to Naruto and Sasuke in an almost indifferent tone. Looking at Obito's appearance, Sasuke's heart was slightly disappointed. Has he really forgotten about the pride of the Uchiha clan? Slowly unsheathing the silver long sword in his hand, Sasuke's figure also disappeared directly into Susanoo. In a flash, Sasuke's figure directly appeared behind Obito, and the long sword in his hand gently cut off the Uchiha clan tattoo on Obito's navy blue robe. In this case, you no longer have the right to keep this Uchiha clan tattoo and weapon that symbolizes the Uchiha clan. With that, Sasuke directly grabbed the Uchiha clan's weapon that Obito had been carrying on his back, Uchiha round fan in his hand. Chapter 619. When Obito saw that Sasuke appeared directly behind him and took away the Uchiha clan emblem and Uchiha round fan at a speed that he couldn't react to, Obito's heart became alert. Obito activated his hollow ability to the highest level, but even so, Uchiha Obito still couldn't feel safe. Sure enough, Manjikyu Sharingan alone can't fight against Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, which is a level higher than my own. Obviously, when Sasuke suddenly appeared behind him and took away his weapon and Uchiha clan emblem, Obito actually fell into a brief sluggish state. Such a sluggish state came suddenly and unreasonably. This situation can only remind Obito of a ninja's attack method, Genjutsu. Uchiha clan's Sharingan itself has the special ability of Genjutsu I, and when Sharingan evolved to the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, such Genjutsu I has naturally been greatly improved. Although he can't be 100% sure, Sasuke probably inadvertently used Genjutsu I on him just now. In the past, Obito once used the Genjutsu I of his Manjikyu Sharingan to control the 4th generation Mizukage of the Mist Village, but he didn't expect that Genjutsu would be suppressed by the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, which is a level higher than his Manjikyu Sharingan. Although he lost his weapon and his Uchiha clan's name, Obito had no intention of getting back at them at this moment. After all, Naruto, who has superior physical fitness and chakra reserves, and Uchiha Sasuke, who has surpassed him in Sharingan level, have joined forces against him at this moment. If he continues to fight with them, Obito really felt that it would be difficult for him to win, and it was even likely that he would suffer some injuries. Now is not the time for us to fight. Let's meet again when the final battle begins. Looking at Sasuke and Naruto, Uchiha forced himself to look more mysterious and said to Naruto and Sasuke. Hearing Uchiha Obito's contemptuous tone, Naruto couldn't hold back his temper any longer. He immediately controlled the Nine Tails chakra to condense chakra palm behind him, and prepared to use Rasengan to attack Obito again. But at this moment, Naruto wasn't alone here. Beside Naruto was Uchiha Sasuke, who had always been very calm in battle. Sasuke directly stretched out his arm and blocked Naruto behind him. Now is indeed not the time to fight Uchiha Obito directly. After all, for the current ninja allied forces, Uchiha Obito is still a person who can judge their strategic intentions. If Sasuke and Naruto really do their best to keep Uchiha Obito here, what will the result be? It's nothing more than Akatsuki without a leader, and the conflict between Black Zetsu and Kabuto will be ignited again. At that time, Akatsuki's two forces will stir up a bloody storm in the ninja world. It's simply unimaginable. Naruto, whether he's bluffing or really has something to rely on, now is not a good time for us to fight him. At this moment, the front battlefield has fallen into an extremely anxious situation, and a large number of strong people who have died are fighting with the ninja allied forces. Looking at Obito's body slowly integrated into Kamui space and disappeared directly. Sasuke briefly explained the information he obtained from the front battlefield to Naruto, and then looked at Naruto with a very serious expression. War is not a collision of personal strength, nor is it a game that can be won directly by perfect strategy. If you want to win the war and make the ninja world peaceful, what you need the most is not the strength of the body, but the strength of everyone's heart. The human heart is the most magnificent treasure created by heaven and earth, and such a treasure naturally contains the most powerful strength. Now what the ninja world needs is not only the victory of the war, but also the elimination of estrangement from the top and the bottom. I know that I don't have the ability to open people's hearts like this, but you do. You are the warm sun in the deep darkness, shining the darkness in everyone's heart. If there is really someone in this world who can bring peace, in fact, the most likely person is you. Sasuke, who has never been so good at expressing his heart, at this moment, suddenly said so many encouraging words to Naruto, and even said that he was not Naruto. Such a change made Naruto somewhat unexpected. If it wasn't for his chakra perception telling him over and over again that the person standing in front of him was Uchiha Sasuke, who had been bickering with him since childhood, Naruto would have started to attack this Uchiha Sasuke, who was completely different from his impression. Uchiha Sasuke has learned to be humble, which is the most impossible thing Naruto has ever heard. That. I say, are you really the Uchiha Sasuke I know? Naruto looked at Sasuke, and said to Sasuke tentatively. Hearing Naruto's words, Sasuke's face couldn't help but show a smile, and the silver sword in his hand directly hit Naruto's head with the scabbard. I say, are you really a fool? Obviously, he didn't say anything good, but Naruto was completely sluggish. Sasuke, the Uchiha Sasuke I know, what kind of expression is on his face now? Is Sasuke smiling at the moment? Although it's just a shallow smile, but after knowing Sasuke for so long, this is almost the most brilliant smile Naruto has seen from Sasuke. Naruto, people always have to grow up. Although in many times, we have experienced a lot of pain, but these pains are also the best nourishment for our growth. Originally, I had been resisting and avoiding this kind of pain. But now I understand that there are a lot of things that can't be avoided. Only when you really decide to face them, can you be regarded as a qualified ninja, a qualified man. Chapter 620. Looking at Sasuke, who has become very different from his impression, Naruto's eyes flashed with a trace of trance. When he and Sasuke were in ninja school, they were a pair of very famous problem children. One was not good at communicating with people and rejected all people who tried to get close to him. The other was a ninja with mediocre talent and liked to use pranks to attract the attention of others. But now, looking at himself and Sasuke, both of them have grown a lot. Although he can't say whether it's good or bad, he's getting further and further away from his past self. However, such thoughts only appeared in Naruto's mind for a moment and disappeared directly. After all, Naruto is not a compassionate person. Although he felt a little emotional at the moment, Naruto prefers to look forward. Sasuke, you just said that the battlefield ahead is very anxious, and a large number of Edo Tensei troops were also sent to the front line. What's going on? When Naruto's mood completely calmed down, he finally began to look at the most critical problem now. This is the first official battle of the Fourth Shinobi World War. Originally, according to the prediction of the ninja allied forces, such a battle should actually be a confrontation between the two sides to test each other. But over time, both Akatsuki and ninja allied forces began to invest a lot of power in it. This kind of feeling is not like testing each other, it's almost the same as the decisive battle in the final stage of the war. Moreover, this behavior of constantly adding combat power is almost completely under the leadership of Akatsuki. After losing the initiative, ninja allied forces can only be forced to continue to invest their own combat power. I'm not very clear about the situation on the front battlefield now. After all, when I came here, I actually just took a quick glance. After sensing your chakra, I immediately rushed to your location. Although the battle between us and the masked man didn't take long, the situation on the battlefield is unpredictable, so I think we should rush to the front battlefield immediately. Sasuke naturally has no need to lie to Naruto. At the moment when Sasuke arrived, many Kage-level powerhouses Edo Tensei had already appeared on the battlefield. When he was in ninja school, Sasuke preferred some classes that could increase his combat power. In fact, he didn't listen to much about the history of ninja world. He just remembered the physical characteristics of some particularly powerful ninjas. And it was a hurried glance on the battlefield that made Sasuke find many people he felt familiar with. The former Kage of various villages and some famous peak ninjas. To be honest, if Sasuke faced these powerhouses alone, even if he now has the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, he would still have a huge sense of crisis. So now, in fact, Sasuke has a lot of doubts about whether the ninja allied forces can defeat these former peak powerhouses. This is also one of the reasons why Sasuke persuaded Naruto not to pursue Uchiha Obito. After all, the main forces fighting against the ninja allied forces are actually the 100,000 White Zetsu army led by Black Zetsu and Kabuto who commanded the Edo Tensei. From Uchiha Sasuke's point of view, it is actually more cost-effective to kill Black Zetsu and Kabuto than to kill Uchiha Obito. Time waits for no man, let's rush to the front battlefield as soon as possible. After hearing Sasuke's words, Naruto was also a little anxious. After all, his father was also on the front battlefield. If the enemy sends Edo Tensei Kage-level powerhouses, then his father, as a Kage-level powerhouse, is also likely to be killed. Father, please don't let anything happen to you. Although Naruto used to reject his father very much, it has to be said that under Watergate's deliberate management, the relationship between Naruto and Watergate has also been greatly eased. Just like now, although he knows that Watergate is very powerful, as a son, Naruto still can't help but care about his father. Sasuke looked at Naruto and could feel his emotions from Naruto's body. Putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder, Sasuke said slowly to Naruto, "Don't worry, I'm faster, I'll take you to the front battlefield." After watching Uchiha escape, the Nine Tails chakra mode on Naruto's body has been lifted. After all, the Nine Tails chakra mode also causes a great burden on Naruto's body. Now that it has been lifted, it also made Naruto's body slightly weak. Naruto's physical condition was naturally seen by Sasuke, and Sasuke also had his own plans at the moment, so he directly put his hand on Naruto's body and cast his eternal Mangekyo Dojutsu, Susanoo. He didn't exert the power of Susanoo to the maximum limit. After all, the two of them were only using Susanu's speed to travel, and other offensive and defensive abilities could be temporarily abandoned. Susanu, which was almost skeletal, had a pair of very complete wings behind it. Naruto and Sasuke, who were wrapped in Susanu, directly flew into the air with Susanu towards the center of the battlefield. Susanu, burning with purple chakra flames, flew towards the battlefield, and the ninjas in the battle naturally saw this very conspicuous Susanu in their eyes. Byakugan, open. On the battlefield, Hyuga Hinata was fighting with White Zetsu's clone opposite her. After perceiving the familiar aura of Susanu flying over her, Hinata also directly used Gentle Fist to force White Zetsu's clone opposite her, and then used her Byakugan to observe Susanu passing through the sky. Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun. Although Susanu itself was shaped by high-concentration chakra, Sasuke at this moment didn't stimulate Susanu to the maximum extent, so the skeleton state of Susanu could still be observed by the naked eye. Feeling the huge pressure naturally emitted from Sasuke and Naruto, Hinata's eyes flashed with a trace of powerlessness. After all, two people of the same age as her have reached the strength to directly participate in the main battlefield of such a shinobi world war, but looking at her now, dealing with a mass-produced clone of White Zetsu was so difficult, the sense of powerlessness inevitably swept Hinata's heart. Chapter 621. The war won't change because of the thoughts of one of the participants. Although Hinata's heart was full of sadness because of her weakness, as a ninja, Hinata could only swallow the unwillingness and sadness in her heart, and condense chakra in her hand again, and rushed toward White Zetsu's clone that she had just forced back. At this moment, Naruto and Sasuke had no intention of watching the battle between the ninja and White Zetsu's clone, because the situation in the center of the battlefield has become very critical. 5 figures stood in the center of the battlefield. They were like mountains, unmoving and filled with a powerful aura. Second Tsuchikage, Second Tsuchikage, Second Tsuchikage, Second Tsuchikage, Second Tsuchikage, Genjutsu, Sandame Reikage, 4th Tsuchikage Raza, and 4th Tsuchikage Yagura. Although each of them belonged to different eras, at this moment, in the camp of Akatsuki, the 5 Kages of the 5 major ninja villages were also gathered. At this moment, Second Tsuchikage has already cast his own special ninjutsu Split Jutsu and Spotless Maze. Almost every once in a while, a small transparent cube will be released from one or more corners of the battlefield to attack the members of the ninja allied forces. By reducing the attacking power and increasing the launching speed, Dust Release, detachment of the primitive world jutsu was skillfully launched again and again at the location of Wu and his clones. Although every time he launched such an attack, Wu would remind the ninja allied forces, but there were also many ninjas who had no way to react, so there were many seriously injured ninjas who fell to the ground, the wounds on their body unceasingly flowing blood, soaking the ground. Second Tsuchikage, Genjutsu, also summoned his summon beast, Bai. After the huge Bai was summoned, it also cooperated with Second Tsuchikage, Genjutsu and Genjutsu to hide their figures. Similar to the Second Tsuchikage, the Second Mizukage used the ability of the skeleton to hide his body. However, in order not to overlap with Second Tsuchikage's attack, Second Tsuchikage Genjutsu used a ninjutsu called Water Release, Water Balloon Jutsu. This ninjutsu allowed him to change his figure and spit out a slightly viscous water from his mouth at the same time. When this water touched an object, it would immediately explode, causing damage. 4th Tsuchikage, Yagura, was not inferior to Second Tsuchikage at this moment. The red-tailed beast chakra wrapped around Yagura's body, forming a layer of tailed beast raiment. 3 chakra tails were constantly swaying behind Yagura's back. After all, there was no real Sanbai in Yagura's body. He was only relying on a part of chakra that Uchiha stripped from the Jubi's body to maintain his tailed beast mode. Therefore, although there were 3 tails on Yagura's body, the chakra raiment was very thin. But in any case, the energy level of a tailed beast's chakra is far beyond the chakra of an ordinary ninja. Moreover, Three-tailed column force and fourth Tsuchikage Yagura were famous for being able to control their tailed beast chakra. At this moment, with the power of Manjikyu Sharingan and Rinnegan that Uchiha took from Uchiha Obito, they were able to tame their tailed beast chakra. Yagura's hands were constantly forming hand seals, and a water release ninjutsu mixed with the Sanbai's chakra was constantly released. In the blink of an eye, countless water release ninjutsu merged together and rushed towards the place where the ninja allied forces were. Increasing the amount of chakra output, Yondaime Mizukage created a small lake in the center of the battlefield almost in the blink of an eye. Water Dragon Technique, Water Shark Technique, all kinds of water release ninjutsu were cast by Yondaime Mizukage. And unlike other Edo Tensei, Yagura didn't accept the half-control and half-freedom of Yakushi Kabuto. At this moment, Yagura was completely under the control of Uchiha Obito. He spared no effort in casting ninjutsu and didn't care about the casualties of the ninja allied forces. So during this battle, it was Yagura who caused the most damage to the ninja allied forces. Yagura's role wasn't limited to this. As one of the 6 clones of Uchiha Obito's Rinnegan, Yagura and Uchiha Obito also shared vision. Yagura was also an important existence for Uchiha Obito to monitor the movements of the ninja allied forces. The fourth Mizukage Raza, who appeared together with the second Mizukage, was now using sand release to control the golden sand, making his body float on the battlefield. The golden sand entered the ground under the control of Raza, constantly crushing the stones and soil to collect the golden sand, preparing to cast a larger range attack ninjutsu. Sandaime Raikage's body at this moment was surrounded by a large number of blue and white lightning, piercing left and right in the crowd. Sandaime Raikage also didn't open his mouth to remind the ninjas of the ninja allied forces. After all, after using Raitun Chakra, Sandaime Raikage's speed, except for the fourth Mizukage Watergate who is proficient in space ninjutsu, and Uzumaki Naruto who has entered the Nine Tails Chakra mode, no one can escape. Even if he opened his mouth to remind others how and where he attacked, in the end, they still couldn't avoid his attack. Although the 5 Kage-level powerhouses didn't cooperate with each other, their individual strength was enough to make the ninjas of the ninja allied forces unable to breathe. Although the ninjas were doing their best to deal with it, the gap in strength wasn't so easy to offset, and the casualties of the ninja allied forces were increasing. Just when the 5 Kage-level ninjas were still doing whatever they wanted, Uchiha Sasuke controlled Susanoo, flapping its wings, and landed in the middle of the battlefield. Looking at the burning purple chakra flame of Susanoo, every ninja of the ninja allied forces was full of vigilance. Among the 5 Kage, the second Tsuchikage, the second Mizukage, and the third Raikage's eyes flashed with a hint of fear at the same time. And when Susanoo's flesh and blood became plump under Sasuke's control, and his body was covered with the Crow Tengu armor, these 3 Kage-level powerhouses who had seen Uchiha Madara's experience of beating up the shinobi world couldn't help but have some panic in their hearts. This is the strongest ninjutsu that Manjikyu Sharingan can trigger, Susanoo. Chapter 622. Feeling the gaze of the 5 Kage-level powerhouses and thousands of ninjas, Sasuke didn't have any special feelings. When Sasuke obtained the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, his state of mind gradually changed. Except for those who he agreed with, Sasuke didn't care so much about other people's views on him, whether good or bad. So that's how it is. Are they all the Kage of the 5 great ninja villages? I said that even if the 5 great ninja villages have been rotten over the years, they wouldn't be beaten like this. It turns out that the ninjas of the 5 great ninja villages were beaten so miserably by the Kage of the 5 great ninja villages. Seeing that their juniors have fallen like this, perhaps these seniors couldn't suppress their disappointment in the juniors in their hearts, so they beat them so heavily? Looking at the 5 Kage-level powerhouses and the ninjas of the ninja allied forces on the battlefield, Sasuke didn't hesitate to open the group mockery mode. As soon as he said this, the 5 Kage-level powerhouses and the ninjas of the ninja allied forces on the battlefield all blushed and couldn't speak for a long time. Kabuto, who was controlling the 5 Kage-level powerhouses in the Akatsuki headquarters, also temporarily relaxed his control of the 5 Kage-level powerhouses. After all, Kabuto was also quite interested in Sasuke's direct mockery. To be honest, when he saw Sasuke directly riding Susanoo into the battlefield, Kabuto's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. After all, Kabuto got a lot of information about Manjikyu Sharingan from the research of Uchiha Obito and Orochimaru. At this moment, Sasuke can directly use the complete Susanoo, which proves that Sasuke's eyes have become the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, which stands at the peak of Sharingan. With such a pair of eyes, once Sasuke stepped into the battlefield and directly stood on the side of the ninja allied forces, then he would use the full power of Susanoo to directly attack the 5 former Kage summoned by himself. Kabuto wasn't completely sure whether the 5 Kage could defeat Uchiha Sasuke, who had the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. However, when Sasuke just appeared on the battlefield, he didn't hesitate to ridicule the ninja allied forces and Akatsuki at the same time. Kabuto was first surprised that Uchiha Sasuke, who had always been very indifferent to people, could become so eloquent. Secondly, he was surprised that Sasuke didn't take any side action after joining the battlefield. Instead, he directly cut off the possibility of cooperation with the ninja allied forces and Akatsuki. So what kind of confidence and capital made Uchiha Sasuke make such a choice? After all, in Kabuto's view, although Uchiha Sasuke wasn't a person with high EQ, he was also a person with high IQ. Now it's the time of the 4th Shinobi World War. No matter how powerful a person is, as long as he wants to live in the shinobi world, he must be attached to a force. Since Sasuke has now shown his intention not to join the ninja allied forces and Akatsuki, then which force did Uchiha Sasuke join the battle on behalf of? Of course, through the eyes of Edo Tensei, Kabuto also saw the slightly complicated blood-colored lines on Uchiha Sasuke's white clothes. A guess appeared in Kabuto's heart, but Kabuto hid all this guess in his heart and was not ready to reveal it to anyone. Sasuke, what are you doing? Unlike Sasuke, Naruto is a person with high EQ or hidden EQ. After hearing Sasuke's words, he instinctively noticed that something was wrong, so he immediately stopped Sasuke from continuing. Originally, because Naruto was wrapped in Susanoo, most of the ninjas didn't notice Naruto's figure, but when Naruto spoke to stop Sasuke, they heard it clearly. Why did Nine Tails Column Force appear in this place? Didn't you say that you have protected Column Force well? Although he didn't know Naruto, Sandaime Reikage still sensed the huge chakra from Naruto's body. Killer Bee Sandaime Reikage knows the Hachibi Jinchuriki, so now the only person wrapped in Susanoo is the Kyubi Jinchuriki. They clearly knew how terrible the Akatsuki was, but they didn't hide their Jinchuriki well, and now they let their Jinchuriki directly appear on the battlefield. If the Akatsuki really wanted to take Column Force away at this moment, what kind of power will the ninja allied forces rely on to protect Column Force? Is it these ninja allied forces that were beaten by the 5 of them, or is it this Manjikyu Sharingan holder who doesn't know the severity of the situation? Although Sandaime Reikage's words were a bit vulgar, he also said the thoughts of the other Kage. After all, as a member of the Edo Tensei of Akatsuki, several Kages were very clear about how powerful the Akatsuki is. No one can give Sandaime Reikage an answer. After all, even the ninja allied forces didn't know why Naruto suddenly appeared on the battlefield. Sasuke naturally won't give Sandaime Reikage any answer. After all, Sasuke really doesn't have any respect for a dead person whose soul was wantonly played with. Instead, Sasuke's eyes looked at Goku Yagura, who was still attacking the ninja allied forces when the other Kages summoned by the Edo Tensei stopped moving. Seeing Goku Yagura's Rinnegan and Sharingan, Sasuke's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. Now Sasuke actually doesn't care so much about most things, but now the behavior of the masked man who called himself Uchiha Madara is no different from discrediting the Uchiha clan and pushing the Uchiha clan to the opposite side of the ninja world. This, Sasuke absolutely won't allow it to happen. After sending out Naruto wrapped in Susanoo, Sasuke put his mind completely on controlling Susanoo. Susanu's huge palm was placed on the long sword at his waist, and slowly pulled out the long sword, and all the lightning attribute chakra gathered in the long sword in his hand. Raiton, Chidori blade. Chop. Under Sasuke's violent roar, the long sword wrapped in lightning directly slashed towards Goku Yagura's head, directly wanting to take his life. Chapter 623. Although Yagura's own strength is enough to rank among the top Kage tier ninjas, after all, Yagura was summoned to the shinobi world through Edo Tensei, and Uchiha Obito himself only has one Rinnegan, which caused Yagura's own strength to decrease to a certain extent, and he doesn't have the special ability of Rinnegan Six Paths clone. The complete Susanoo waved the long sword in his hand, and the blue and white lightning wrapped around the long sword in his hand. In order to make Susanoo's attack more fierce, Sasuke even attached some of his own chakra sword aura to the long sword. The three powers were added to Yagura's body at the same time, and there was almost no resistance. Yagura's body was directly cut in half by Uchiha Sasuke's Susanoo. Just one sword attack directly cut a Kage tier ninja's body? Sasuke's understated move directly made everyone present involuntarily feel palpitations and fear. In the long history of the shinobi world, naturally, many people have surpassed the limit of ordinary ninja and became the kind of peerless powerhouse who can resist a village or a country alone. But how old is Uchiha Sasuke at this moment? The Uchiha clan's extermination incident can be said to have caused a sensation in the entire shinobi world, and most people have a basic understanding of Sasuke. At this moment, Sasuke, who is only 17 years old, can already beat a Kage tier ninja on the ground, so when Uchiha Sasuke really grows up in the future, what kind of terrifying scene will it be? Naruto, who was just sent out of Susanoo's body by Sasuke, saw Sasuke directly cut Yagura into two halves before he could stand still. Such a scene also shocked Naruto's mind. Although Naruto thinks that he can also defeat a Kage tier ninja like Sasuke, it's absolutely impossible for him to directly cut such a strong person in half like Sasuke. When Yagura's body was directly divided into two parts, Sanbai's chakra in Yagura's body suddenly broke away from the dual control of Edo Tensei and Rinnegan, and a chakra full of Sanbai's will directly rushed towards Naruto. Although Naruto himself didn't notice that a trace of chakra that didn't belong to him rushed into his body, Naruto's body still had an existence born from chakra, Nine-Tails Demon Fox Kurama. Aisabu? When this chakra that belonged to Sanbai secretly entered Naruto's body, Nine-Tails immediately noticed the aura that belonged to Sanbai. In fact, the relationship between the nine-tailed beasts wasn't that bad. After all, although the nine-tailed beasts have different personalities, they grew up together, and their understanding of each other is beyond anyone else. Sanbai Aisabu himself has a gentle temperament, and there is no conflict between him and Nine-Tails, so when Sanbai entered Naruto's body, Nine-Tails didn't directly release his power to erase Sanbai's will. Kurama, it's been a long time. I didn't expect that the shinobi world is such a small land, but it directly separated the nine of us from each other. The only chance to see each other is when we're sealed in other people's bodies to fight. Aisabu himself has a gentle temperament, and the tone of his speech is also very different from his slightly ferocious appearance, but his tone is so casual that it's almost cruel. But although his words are cruel, for the nine-tailed beasts, this is the life of a human who covets their strength. So why did you sneak into this stinky brat's body? Nine-Tails didn't express his opinion about Aisabu's words. The temperament of a fox is naturally a bit cold. For these tailed beasts who share the same origin as him, although Nine-Tails instinctively has a bit of closeness, but that's it. To Kurama, meeting or not meeting was not something that could tug at his heartstrings. Haha, hearing Nine-Tails' slightly unfriendly tone, Aisabu didn't get angry, instead, he chuckled a few times and said to Kurama. Presumably, you also have a slight premonition in your heart. Soon, we are likely to return to our original form, the Jubi sacred tree. But we have existed as independent individuals for so long, what if your consciousness is erased again and you become an existence that only knows how to destroy? Initially, Nine-Tailed Beast acted as if it had nothing to do with him. However, after hearing Ji Fu's words, Nine-Tailed Beast's eyes involuntarily flashed with a trace of panic and fear. After all, if there was one thing that all nine-tailed beasts had in common, it would be their pursuit of freedom. Any life will instinctively yearn for freedom in the bottom of their heart. The nine-tailed beasts are sealed in the body of the Jinchuriki. They can only wait for the death of the Jinchuriki in the dark, and then enter the body of another person with no resistance. The cycle is endless. This kind of life is very difficult for Kurama to accept. If he really returns to his origin and loses his will, Nine Tails would rather die now than lose his soul. So this is the backup plan you prepared for yourself, hoping to use the undying chakra on this stinky brat to resist the fear of returning to your origin? In fact, every tailed beast can discover Naruto's uniqueness. After all, every tailed beast has seen Asura and Indra. If he wants to prevent himself from returning to the Jubi, the power of the Otsutsuki clan is indispensable. After living in the ninja world for so many years, the tailed beasts have also been constantly absorbing the knowledge of the world. Although their bodies are in beast form, few people can surpass the nine-tailed beasts in wisdom and knowledge. But the more knowledge they have, the more powerless the nine-tailed beasts feel. The huge ninja world is like a playground for the Otsutsuki clan. Countless wars between people are actually because of the family conflicts of the Otsutsuki clan. This is the tragedy of the tailed beasts, this is the tragedy of mankind, this is the tragedy of countless ninja worlds. Hearing Nine Tails' words, Isabu didn't speak, but his sincere eyes directly looked at Nine Tails. Isabu has no choice, Nine Tails has no choice, all nine-tailed beasts have no choice. Chapter 624. Just when Naruto was still standing on the edge of the battlefield, a golden figure suddenly appeared beside Naruto. "Naruto, why are you here? Why don't you go back with me?" The moment he saw Naruto's figure, Watergate immediately scolded Naruto seriously. Flying Thunder God Jutsu was originally Watergate's proud ninjutsu. Naturally, Watergate also imprinted the mark of Flying Thunder God Jutsu on Naruto's body early. When Watergate received the battle report of Naruto's appearance on the battlefield, he immediately panicked. In the battle report about Uchiha Sasuke, Watergate didn't listen at all and directly used Flying Thunder God Jutsu to appear beside his child. If it was usual, hearing Watergate scolding him like this, Naruto would be very dissatisfied and defend his behavior. But now, when Watergate scolded him, Naruto became silent. He just stared blankly at Susanoo standing in the middle of the battlefield. After seeing that his child was safe and sound, Watergate finally calmed down and looked at Susanoo standing in the middle of the battlefield and Uchiha Sasuke wrapped in it. Uchiha? Looking at Sasuke's figure, Watergate's heart was also slightly emotional. When the Uchiha clan was exterminated, Watergate wasn't in the Woodleaf Ninja Village, but Watergate still learned the truth of the incident from the handbook left for him by the three generations. Although the fundamental reason for the extermination of the Uchiha clan was because they wanted to have a coup d'état, in fact, the ones who were really wrong in the Uchiha clan were only those who stood at the top. Most of the ordinary civilians of the Uchiha clan actually didn't support or even know the decision of the top leaders of the Uchiha clan. But even such people, Root Ninja or Danzo standing in the shadows and three generations still directly slaughtered the Uchiha clan under a tacit understanding and put the blame on Itachi Uchiha. From Watergate's point of view, in fact, Watergate didn't think that the decision made by the three generations Hokage and Danzo was a wise choice. Only timid people will be afraid of potential threats, and people with real courage will face those threats head-on. The Uchiha clan was indeed very dangerous. After all, their Kekkei Genkai Sharingan was simply a cheating device. If it weren't for the temptation of their Kekkei Genkai, presumably Danzo wouldn't have cooperated with the three generations Hokage to exterminate the Uchiha clan. But even if the Uchiha clan was a threat, at least most of the Uchiha clan members didn't make any mistakes. In Watergate's view, the best plan was actually to kill only the leaders, and it would be better to directly announce the crimes committed by these leaders one by one. In any family, there will be smart people. In fact, they can actually see who is right and who is wrong, or who is strong and who is weak. As long as the right method is used, they can completely tame the Uchiha clan. If the current Woodleaf village still has the Uchiha clan, then the strength of the Woodleaf village will definitely soar. However, these are all things in the past. Even if Watergate doesn't agree with the approach of Sandaime and Danzo, from Watergate's identity, he can't say anything against it. Taking a deep look at Uchiha Sasuke, Watergate didn't speak, he just put his hand on Naruto's shoulder, and Flying Thunder God Jutsu was instantly launched. Naruto and Watergate's figures directly disappeared from everyone's sight. Sasuke naturally also noticed Watergate's gaze, but Sasuke also didn't say anything. After confirming that Yagura couldn't be recovered in a short time, he directly poured his chakra into Susanoo, and controlled it to fly directly into the sky. Ninja Allied Forces Command Headquarters, a golden flash flashed, and Watergate directly appeared in the command headquarters with Naruto. As the Hachibi Column Force, Killer Bee was also directly summoned to the Ninja Allied Forces Command Headquarters by Yondaime Reikage. At the end of the Third Shinobi World War, in fact, Watergate fought with Killer Bee and more than once, but those were all things in the past. Watergate, Killer Bee, and A also miraculously had a sense of identity because of the previous conflict. When he saw Watergate, Killer Bee was also a little excited. However, Watergate's face wasn't so good now, which made Killer Bee somewhat don't know how to talk to Watergate. Similar to Watergate, Yondaime Reikage AI's face was also a bit unfriendly. Uzumaki Naruto, A was preparing to reprimand Naruto. After all, as the target of Akatsuki, Naruto directly appeared on the battlefield. What's the difference between such behavior and seeking death? But after all, Uzumaki Naruto is a ninja of the Woodleaf Ninja Village, and Naruto's father, Watergate, is on his side. Whether it's for business or personal reasons, A shouldn't be the one to reprimand Naruto. So as soon as he called out Naruto's name, A wisely closed his mouth. However, Killer Bee, who was standing on the side, was very keenly aware of the anger on his brother's body. Obviously, because of Naruto's matter, his brother was angry to a certain extent, but because he was taking care of Watergate's mood, he forcibly suppressed his anger. Looking at his brother's angry appearance, even Killer Bee's heart was a little bit scared. Watergate's face was no longer carrying the usual gentle smile. At this moment, Watergate's face and eyes were a bit cold. Originally, I didn't want to ground you. After all, I know your temperament. I know that even if I give an order to ground you, you will definitely find a way to escape from the cage I built for you. But Naruto, you really let me down. Do you know how important you are? If you are really kidnapped by Akatsuki, how serious the consequences will be. Even if you don't know these, then you should know that if you have any accident, how sad your mother and I will be. Naruto, you are not a child anymore. What you're facing now is no longer a one-on-one ninja, but an organization with a terrifying plan. So since gentle methods don't work on you, then I have to use some forceful means. Chapter 625. Finally, under Watergate's anger, Naruto was directly deprived of his freedom of movement. Killer Bee, who didn't cause any trouble, was also directly affected. Naruto and Killer Bee were temporarily imprisoned in the headquarters of the Allied Ninja Army. After the battle subsided a little, Watergate decided to send a team of ninjas to personally escort Naruto and Killer Bee to the giant turtle island mentioned by the Yondaime Reikage. Accompanied by a team of Umbu, Naruto and Killer Bee were sent to the rear of the camp at the same time. Originally, Naruto was very unconvinced in his heart. After all, he appeared on the battlefield in the hope that he could help his father and the Allied Ninja Army. After getting the recognition of Nine Tails, his strength has surpassed most ninjas. It is really difficult for Naruto to stay in the camp and watch others fight for the future of the shinobi world. However, Watergate's words directly stabbed Naruto's heart like a knife. If Naruto really didn't have any relatives in the world at this moment, naturally, no one can stop Naruto's stubborn temper, but at this moment, there are two of his closest relatives in the shinobi world. Naruto can ignore others, but his father and mother are existences that Naruto can never ignore. Along the way, Killer Bee also tried to talk to Naruto, but Naruto was in a bad mood, so he naturally ended the conversation easily. After arriving at the tent prepared by Watergate for Killer Bee and Naruto, this team of Umbu didn't leave. Instead, they directly hid near Naruto and Killer Bee's tent. These Umbu will be responsible for the security of Naruto and Killer Bee's tent. They will also keep an eye on Naruto and Killer Bee so that their two important people, Column Force, won't leave. After entering his tent, Naruto lay directly on his bed. He opened the slightly damp quilt and wrapped his whole body in it. Holding a pillow in his hand, Naruto opened his eyes and looked at the air in front of him. Sure enough, I'm still too weak. Gently opening his mouth, Naruto couldn't help but murmur to himself. Why didn't his father agree with him appearing on the battlefield? Along the way, Naruto has been thinking about such a question. Naruto thought a lot along the way, but even if he was dizzy, Naruto still couldn't think of any clues. But when he came to the tent and collapsed on the bed, Naruto's mind couldn't help but recall the scene where Sasuke used Susanoo and directly cut Yonde Mizuki's Yagura in half. When did Sasuke become so powerful? And unlike himself, Sasuke has an indescribable aura of a strong man. Although he has experienced a lot of hardships along the way, when his father Watergate returned to the village and took the position of Hokage, Naruto himself was more or less taken care of a lot, and his life has been very happy over the years. Living a happy life is indeed a good thing, but living a happy life is also an important reason for people to be lazy. Born in sorrow and die in peace. This is the best portrayal of a ninja. A ninja wants to make great progress and want to become a truly respected strong person. The most important thing is to endure hardships and grow in them. Although Naruto didn't know all of Sasuke's experiences over the years, he also knew some of them under the deliberate collection. Although Naruto hasn't experienced such pain, just thinking about it made Naruto tremble with fear under Orochimaru's hands, and the heart-wrenching pain of killing his brother with his own hands, just thinking about it made Naruto feel frightened. Thinking about it, Sasuke has become so strong because he has so many experiences, right? How good would it be if I could become stronger? Yes, if he was really strong enough. Stronger than his father, stronger than the masked man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara, then how could he be trapped here without freedom? Naruto didn't have the slightest resentment and unwillingness to Watergate, who locked him here, and Uchiha Sasuke, who went further on the road of the strong. There was only powerlessness and loss for his own strength. Now Sasuke may be shining on the battlefield, right? It's really enviable. With a sigh in his mouth, a kind of inexplicable sleepiness directly hit Naruto's heart. Closing his eyes, Naruto also gradually fell asleep. In the void beyond the ninja world, a figure stood in the void space. This person's eyes glowed with a golden light, as if penetrating countless uncontrollable things and directly looking at something. Compared to Indra, Asura's growth is still not fast enough. Although in terms of strength, if Asura, who stimulated the Nine Tails chakra mode, performs normally, and Indra's eternal Manjikyu Sharingan is not that big of a difference. However, compared to Indra, the Asuras of this generation had a much happier family and life. Without tempering, naturally, there will be less progress. It seems that only I can help him. The golden light in the eyes of the figure became brighter, and even in the blink of an eye, it had condensed into a light beam and shone towards the place where his eyes were focused. The light lasted for a moment before the figure closed his eyes again. He murmured softly, "That's right. Perhaps that's about it. I've created a realistic dream for Asura that's comparable to the suffering Indra experienced." Although Golden Millet Dream seems illusory, everything experienced in the dream is real and not fake for Azura. As long as he can absorb nutrients from such a dream, Azura will definitely make great progress. The figure seemed to be very satisfied, and even nodded with a bit of relief. Because the eyes that were shining with golden light were closed, the face of the figure also became clear. His wrinkled cheeks and grayish-white hair were proof of his identity. It was Hagoromo Sennin who once appeared in front of Kurama, but at this moment, Hagoromo Sennin was full of an illusory feeling, clearly visible to the naked eye, but full of a feeling of nothingness. Chapter 626. Naruto, who was lying on his bed, fell into a deep sleep. His face became very pale at this moment, and even drops of cold sweat the size of soybeans couldn't help but flow from Naruto's forehead to his bed. Naruto's body, which was tightly wrapped in the quilt, was trembling at the moment, and even the quilt was soaked by the cold sweat on his body. At the moment, Naruto's face was very ferocious. Obviously, he was enduring great pain. Naruto's mind has been completely immersed in his own dream. At this moment, Naruto was like a bystander looking at his own dream. The protagonist of the dream was none other than Naruto himself. But the Naruto in the dream was completely different from the Naruto in reality. In the dream, the day Naruto was born was the day he lost his father and became an orphan. Although Woodleaf Village was a peaceful village, most of the people in the village were blind people. Under the deliberate guidance of some people hidden in the dark, Naruto's life in Woodleaf Village alone was not so good. Although Sandaime was still so kind and amiable, occasionally he would show some concern to Naruto as an elder. But in the dream, because of the death of the fourth Hokage, Minato Watergate and Uzumaki Shina Kushina, Sandaime was quite tired to deal with it. Although Sandaime was very concerned about Naruto, to be honest, the time he could spend with Naruto was too little. Without the company of his mother, without the careful teaching of Nangongja, Naruto's childhood was almost spent in the discrimination and oppression of his peers. The darkness filled Naruto's childhood in the dream. Naruto tried many times to communicate with the 9 tails in his body, but when he couldn't get rid of such a genjutsu, he finally began to face these things in the dream. When Naruto began to look directly at the dream, Naruto also slowly integrated with himself in the dream. As a freshman, he entered the ninja school, made friends, graduated as a ninja, one by one, things similar to Naruto's own memory, but with some differences, appeared in the dream, and as the experience in the dream happened one by one, Naruto's own heart began to be in a trance, and he began to be unable to distinguish the difference between the dream and reality. He was just living in such a dream, with a completely integrated mentality. Although his childhood in the dream wasn't so happy, it was precisely because of the shortcomings in his heart during his childhood that Naruto understood how precious friendship and bondage are. In the dream, Naruto still got the approval of the 9 tails, and still had a lot of close friends. To some extent, Naruto in the dream was more mature and wiser than Naruto in reality. Sure enough, although time passed in the dream, the Fourth Shinobi World War that swept across the entire shinobi world still broke out. The dream also came to an abrupt end at this moment. Naruto was forcibly expelled from the dream and woke up again in reality. Ho, ho, ho. Naruto struggled to open his mouth and gasped for breath. It seemed like only by absorbing a large amount of oxygen could Naruto relieve his physical and mental fatigue. However, with Naruto's intense breathing, a faint smell of blood rushed into Naruto's nose. The smell of fresh blood had clearly just appeared. Naruto no longer had the time to use his rapid breathing to calm his sleepiness. He immediately flung away all the blankets on his body and directly jumped up from the bed to rush out of his tent. The moment he opened the curtains of his tent, the faint smell of blood became even more obvious. 9 Tails Chakra Mode, Open. Gently closing his eyes, Naruto began to mobilize the chakra mode assigned to him by 9 Tails. Golden flames and black lines directly covered Naruto's body. After entering the chakra mode of 9 Tails, Naruto's perception ability has been greatly enhanced. He directly perceived that the Umbu team that escorted him and Killer Bee has been slaughtered. In Killer Bee's tent, for some reason, Killer Bee fell into a deep sleep. His vigilance as a ninja is very unreasonable, it's as if it exists in name only. Just as Naruto was about to enter Killer Bee's room, he woke up Killer Bee who had fallen into a strange sleep. But just as he walked near Killer Bee's tent, a hostile aura directly appeared behind Naruto. Body Flicker Technique. Directly activating the chakra in his body, Naruto used the Body Flicker Technique to leave his original place. A man wearing a dark red robe with long white hair suddenly appeared behind Naruto's original place. Naruto has never seen Nagato, but in the dream, Naruto replaced his father, defeated 6 paths of pain, and became the hero of Woodleaf. Such a white-haired, stooped figure with Rinnegan is naturally the leader of Akatsuki, the controller of 6 paths of pain, Nagato. And because of Edo Tensei, his legs, which had lost the ability to move due to the forced summoning of Gedomazo, have become intact at this moment. Although the power of Rinnegan has many shortcomings because it is simulated by Edo Tensei, Nagato's own strength at this moment is definitely not reduced but increased. He dodged quite fast. Looking at Naruto's figure, the corner of Nagato's mouth couldn't help but show some emotion. 9 tails, column force, Uzumaki Naruto. It's a bit ridiculous to say that Namikaze Watergate, and you can be regarded as Jiraiya Sensei's disciples, but you are Namikaze Watergate's child. Should I call you junior brother or martial nephew? Although Nagato's mouth was chatting with Naruto unhurriedly, because Nagato's body was actually not under Nagato's control, Nagato was also attacking Naruto with fierce moves at this moment. His somewhat smiling face and the fierce moves in his hands formed a sharp contrast. And because the taijutsu displayed by Gakido's power is also constantly absorbing the chakra in Naruto's body at this moment. Although Nagato has no way to control the violent 9 tails chakra, the body of Edo Tensei does not feel pain at all and has an extremely strong recovery ability, so Naruto is also in an extreme disadvantage in the battle with Nagato. Chapter 627. Facing Nagato who could exert most of his strength, Naruto was also under pressure at this moment. When all the special abilities of 6 paths of pain were gathered in one person's body, and these abilities were used flexibly, they did exert a powerful power that could turn something rotten into something magical. Although Naruto also heard the details of the battle with 6 paths of pain from his father, and even listened to his father's careful analysis of the strengths and weaknesses of each of 6 paths of pain. Even in his muddle-headed dream, Naruto also defeated 6 paths of pain and became the Woodleaf hero. But at this moment, Pain only used a part of the power of Gakido and combined it with the power of Tendo to make Naruto suffer. Moreover, Naruto had just broken free from a torturous dream, and his memory was actually in an extremely chaotic period. Now, Naruto could forcibly suppress his physical and mental fatigue and barely fight with Nagato. This was already a manifestation of Naruto's mental toughness. In such a mental state, it was indeed not so easy for Naruto to gain an advantage over Nagato. Although the scene looked very hot, Nagato didn't show any room for mercy every time he made a move. But Naruto was still like a small boat in the storm, shaking but firmly floating on the lake without falling. A small white snake about the size of a thumb quietly poked its head out of Nagato's wide robe. The white snake kept sticking out its tongue as if trying to sense something, and the eyes of the white snake were not empty like ordinary pythons. On the contrary, there was a bit of human brilliance in the eyes of this white snake. After observing the battle between Naruto and Nagato for a while, the white snake also slowly retracted its body back into Nagato's wide robe, and its eyes, which were originally full of human color, became empty again at this moment. Although the Rinnegan was a little gray-black, at this moment, the slightly purple part of the eyes was directly filled with gray, and the Rinnegan, which was originally composed of purple and black, has become gray-black at this moment. Hee. Sure enough, I shouldn't give Nagato's consciousness too much independent space. He even intentionally or unintentionally distorted the orders I gave him through his spiritual force. Fortunately, I put an insurance on him in advance. Uzumaki Naruto, 9 Tails Column Force. Contribute the tailed beast in your body, and let you become a cornerstone for the eternal peace of the ninja world. From Nagato's mouth, a gloomy voice suddenly appeared. Without much guessing, Naruto already knew that at this moment, Nagato has completely become a marionette in the hands of Kabuto Yakushi. Controlling Nagato to gently close his hands, a large number of chakra began to surge in his hands, and a small black sphere slowly appeared in Nagato's hands. Chibaku Tensei, go dash. From Nagato's mouth came the voice of Kabuto Yakushi, and the black sphere in Nagato's hand directly shot towards Naruto. Not good. Naruto, don't enter the gravitational range of this black sphere. 9 Tails, who has been in Naruto's body and silently perceived what Naruto did after getting his power, finally reminded Naruto under the threat of Chibaku Tensei. Chibaku Tensei, that is the ninjutsu that once sealed the body of Jubi and formed the bright moon in the sky today. Run. Whether it was the reminder of 9 Tails, the fear of being surrounded by Chibaku Tensei in the dream, or the constant sense of crisis from his heart at this moment, all of them were constantly forcing him to leave the gravitational range of this small black sphere. But in the face of such a ninjutsu, is it really possible to escape? Although at this moment, Nagato was under the control of Kabuto Yakushi, and he himself was in the state of Edo Tensei, so there was no way for him to exert his strongest strength, but even so, Chibaku Tensei was not something that Naruto could resist at this moment. Naruto used the body flicker jutsu again and again to go farther away from the core of Chibaku Tensei, but the powerful gravitational force still continued to pull Naruto's body, attracting him. Originally, Naruto could rely on the movement range of his body flicker jutsu and his physical strength to resist this gravitational force to a certain extent, but as time passed, the gravitational force from the black sphere not only did not weaken, but also became more and more intense. Damn it! Brat, work harder. We must not be sucked in. 9 Tails, who was sealed in Naruto's body, finally decided not to hide his strength at this moment. After all, for Naruto, now is a critical moment that determines his life and death, and for 9 Tails, it is the same. Once he is really captured by the person who is trying to resurrect Jubi, he will return to his origin and turn into the original, Jubi sacred tree. Then what is the difference between killing 9 Tails and killing him? In order to save their own lives, whether it is a human or a tailed beast, they will do their best. This is the desire to survive engraved in the depths of every creature's bloodline. Naruto opened his mind completely to Naruto, and all his will merged with Naruto's. A large amount of chakra rushed into Naruto's body without any hindrance. At this moment, Naruto and 9 Tails were truly integrated into one. The golden chakra flame that originally burned on Naruto's body gradually solidified at this moment. The illusory flame turned into silk threads that intertwined and formed a golden trench coat that reached his knees. The black patterns that originally spread on Naruto's body expanded at this moment, adding a black lining and pattern to the golden trench coat. Ah! Feeling the huge amount of chakra rushing out of his body, Naruto couldn't help but roar at the sky. With a confident smile at the corner of his mouth, Naruto murmured to 9 Tails in his body. 9 Tails. No, I should call you 9 Llama. Don't worry, I won't let what you fear become reality. Because he had completely shared his mind with 9 Tails, Naruto naturally felt what 9 Tails was worried about from 9 Tails' mind. 9 Tails also obtained a part of Naruto's memory from Naruto's dream. Although he still felt a little uneasy, 9 Tails' mouth still curled into a smile when he heard Naruto's words. He said to Naruto, "Brat, if you have time to worry about me, you might as well do your best to protect yourself now." After hearing 9 Tails' words, Naruto's smile gradually disappeared. The chakra on his body surged and the golden flames almost instantly formed the huge body of 9 Tails. He grabbed onto the ground with his claws and stood in front of the Chibaku Tensei that had absorbed a lot of rocks and soil. Chapter 628. After entering the Kurama mode, Naruto's eyes also changed from the previous blue appearance to scarlet eyes. A pair of eyes with a bit of violence, just staring at the huge Chibaku Tensei in front of him and Nagato who was suspended behind it like a god overlooking all living beings. Naruto, we are running out of time, the body condensed with chakra can only last for a while, so you have to listen to what I'm going to say next. Although Chibaku Tensei is very powerful, it's not like there is no way to deal with it. In the hands of Hagoromo, Chibaku Tensei can directly seal the body of Jubi. If we face such a Chibaku Tensei, we have absolutely no room to fight back. But now that this kid is using Chibaku Tensei, we already have some room to resist, then I have a way to deal with it. If any ninjutsu wants to maintain, it must rely on the supply of chakra from the caster. From the point that the power of Chibaku Tensei is constantly increasing, this kid is definitely constantly injecting chakra into the core of Chibaku Tensei. So if we want to deal with Chibaku Tensei in front of us, the best way is to directly use our strongest attack to kill the caster and make him stop the chakra attack on Chibaku Tensei. Without the chakra supply, Chibaku Tensei will directly turn back into rocks and soil. As Nine-Tails said, this method is not very smart, but it is also an extremely practical method. Hearing Nine-Tails' words, Naruto also nodded slightly and then said, I'm not very clear about so many theoretical things, but Kurama, what you just said is the only way we can think of now. Regardless of whether it succeeds or not, we have to give it a try. Seeing that Naruto did not reject his proposal, Nine-Tails also controlled the body condensed with chakra to gather the nine tails together. Chakra gathered into a sphere, and the yin and yang attributes of chakra were mixed in a ratio of 2:8, and a black sphere appeared directly in the center of the nine tails. This Bijadama didn't take too long to brew. Overall, it was about the same size as the head of nine tails formed by chakra. Kyubi directly swallowed the semi-finished black Bijadama in his mouth. His belly swelled a little bit, and he directly opened his mouth, and a colorful beam of light that couldn't be described with words rushed from his mouth to Nagato who was suspended in the air. Although this process sounded very complicated, in fact, it only took a very short time. The huge beam of light shot directly in Nagato's direction. At this moment, Nagato was under the control of Yakushi's pocket. Such long-range control naturally had a certain disadvantage. Because of his slow reaction, Nagato was almost hit directly by the Bijadama. Looking at Nagato's body directly submerged in the beam of light, Naruto and Kurama's heart slightly relaxed. After all, for Naruto and Kurama, this kind of ninjutsu that sealed the Jubi really caused a lot of psychological pressure on them. So, now it's over. Naruto was just about to communicate with Kurama in his body to retract the huge chakra, but before he could finish his words, Kurama in Naruto's body suddenly shouted, "Brat, be careful." After hearing Kurama's words, Naruto's heart also flashed with a sense of crisis, which also urged Naruto to quickly leave his current place. However, even though he was on high alert, his body still needed some time to react. One by one, black crows appeared in front of Naruto. The black crows gathered together one by one, and Itachi Uchiha, who was also wearing a dark red robe, also appeared in front of Naruto. Itachi Uchiha's eyes had turned into the Mangekyo Sharingan at this moment. The original whites of his eyes were completely covered by black-gray. Obviously, Itachi Uchiha was also completely under Yakushi's control. Mangekyo Dojutsu, Tsukuyomi. The triangular windmill in Itachi Uchiha's eyes spun at high speed, and Naruto, who was opposite Itachi Uchiha, was directly pulled into Tsukuyomi's world. Naruto had actually entered Tsukuyomi's world and received Tsukuyomi's attacks. He understood how terrifying the feeling of time, pain, and even everything being controlled in Tsukuyomi's world was. In Tsukuyomi's world, no matter how long it took, it was only an instant to the outside world. In the outside world, Naruto's face turned pale almost instantly. Kurama mode was also forcefully deactivated. Looking at Naruto's state, it was obvious that he was relying on his willpower to hold on. As long as he relaxed, he would definitely fall into a coma. The Chibaku Tensei in the sky also lost its power supply at that moment. It shattered into pieces and smashed to the ground. The immense force caused dust to splatter. This dust turned into a magnificent background behind Itachi Uchiha. No matter how much the world fluctuated, it didn't seem to be able to change the pace of Itachi Uchiha walking towards Naruto. Could it be that God really wants me to be defeated here, and then take back my life and the free will of the entire ninja world? Naruto couldn't help but have such a question in his heart. After all, the information obtained from Nine-Tails' memory and the experience in his dream made Naruto occasionally feel that there was an irresistible existence like fate in this world. Just as Naruto was constantly denying and doubting himself, a sentence suddenly appeared in Naruto's mind. My fate is in my own hands, not in the hands of the heavens. Heaven and earth are ruthless, treating all things as straw dogs. But are we really straw dogs? Every human has their own will and their own pursuit. If the world is really regulated by the development process and all the changes in our lives are really regulated, then this is the time for us to exert our spiritual power. How can I admit defeat so easily here? I still have a lot of things to do. Absolutely. Yes. No. I can. Just fall here. Naruto clenched his teeth tightly and forced his tired body to stand up. Chapter 629. Futile struggle. Seeing Naruto struggling to stand up from the ground, Itachi Uchiha, who was completely under Naruto's control, coldly glanced at Naruto and said in a half-contemptuous and half-angry tone. People like Naruto were the most hated people in Kabuto's eyes. No matter what kind of setbacks they encountered, they could still clearly understand what they wanted, and they could firmly move towards their goal. Since young, in order to maintain his orphanage, Kabuto joined Danzo's route without hesitation. Relying on his age and advantage, Kabuto became one of Danzo's trump cards among the infiltrators. But Root was a place that didn't need people with emotions. Since Kabuto joined Root in order to maintain his orphanage, then as the leader of Root, Danzo had to sever the bond between Kabuto and the orphanage. And the best way to sever the bond was to let Kabuto and the orphanage's dean, walking shaman, Yakushi, kill each other. Although Yakushi was a good chess piece for Danzo, but compared to Kabuto, who had great potential, she was simply not worth mentioning. Sacrificing Yakushi in exchange for a perfect tool, such a simple calculation problem didn't require much effort for Danzo. It's also because of Danzo's arrangement that after killing Tenzin, Kabuto's will was directly broken. Even now, Kabuto was still trying to find the value of his existence, so he continued to act on his own. Mangekyo Dojitsu, Susanoo. The triangular windmill in Itachi Uchiha's eyes spun rapidly at this moment. Two streams of black blood seeped out of Itachi Uchiha's eye sockets. Unlike Uchiha Sasuke's blue-purple Susanoo, Itachi Uchiha Susanoo was slightly red, as if the power of blood was poured out of it. It looked particularly majestic and oppressive. But at this moment, Itachi Uchiha was in the Edo Tensei state, and his Mangekyo Sharingan was also based on the Edo Tensei state. So at this moment, Itachi Uchiha Susanoo was actually still in the first stage of the skeleton state. But this Susanoo was already enough to crush Uzumaki Naruto in his weakened state, wasn't it? Naruto, who was pale and had difficulty standing up, stood in front of Susanoo with his small body trembling. Although his body looked so fragile, at this moment, Naruto's eyes, his eyes were shining like two bright stars in the night sky. Uzumaki Naruto. Take this. In the hand of Susanoo, a long sword with a slight golden luster condensed directly. At this moment, Yakushi Kabuto seemed to have directly put the matter of capturing Uzumaki Naruto to the back of his mind. Because Uzumaki Naruto's eyes were too dazzling for Yakushi Kabuto. Seeing such a pair of eyes, Yakushi Kabuto wanted to destroy them. The golden long sword stabbed straight in the direction of Naruto. Although Naruto's willpower was incomparably firm at this moment, the weakness of his body was an indisputable fact. At this moment, Naruto's pursuit was no longer to defeat Itachi Uchiha, but to be able to leave this world in the best state. The long sword was about to hit his body, and the huge force also brought a strong wind and the noise of air being cut. Even in the face of such a huge gust of wind, Naruto still opened his eyes wide and murmured slightly in his mouth. Kurama. I'm sorry, I obviously said such big words, but in the end, I didn't achieve it. Father, Mother. Forgive me for not being able to serve you, but I don't regret dying for the future of the shinobi world. I have always been a person who doesn't abide by the rules, and now I will continue to be a person who doesn't abide by the rules. The chakra of a bijou is very violent, and it's the most basic common sense for everyone who knows about bijou. At this moment, Naruto's body is weak to the limit. In such a situation, if column force forcibly uses the chakra in his body, it's very likely that he will directly fall into an extremely dangerous situation. The most optimistic estimate is that after using a certain degree of power, column force and the bijou will directly die. Brat, what are you talking about? We bijou are immortal as long as there is chakra in this shinobi world. Although death is strange to me, it's not enough to make me afraid. After so many years, you are the first ninja who has gained my approval. If it's your own decision, even if you die once, what's wrong with that? In fact, Nine Tails is not a very stable person. As the most powerful existence among the Nine Tails is a very adventurous existence. Although Kabuto's behavior of playing with the souls of the dead can't make Nine Tails feel angry, but it's inevitable that there's some disgust in his heart. Since Naruto has decided to fight with Kabuto at all costs, how can Kurama abandon Naruto and run away? Hearing the words of Nine Tails, Naruto's mouth flashed a smile. Sure enough, whether it's in reality or in the dream, Kurama is an existence worthy of deep friendship. Condensing the little remaining chakra in his body, Naruto used his own weak chakra as a catalyst to transfer some of the chakra that Nine Tails previously assigned to him. In Naruto's abdomen, a golden flame began to slowly rise. As long as Naruto is willing, it will only take a moment for Naruto's body to be completely covered by the golden flame and enter the Nine Tails chakra mode. Naruto is waiting for the moment when the golden sword in the hand of Itachi Uchiha is about to touch him. He will directly burst out all the chakra in his body and defeat Itachi Uchiha, then directly find the location of Kabuto using Itachi Uchiha as a coordinate and directly kill him. Using his own life to directly defeat one of the two major forces of Akatsuki, the Edo Tensei, such a choice is actually not a loss. After all, such an action can definitely save thousands of ninjas, right? Chapter 630. Facing death. Even if death is coming, he is still willing to face such a threat. Humans were creatures to begin with. In the face of death, anyone's heart would tremble. This was an innate instinct of living creatures. Seeing the golden greatsword getting closer and closer to him, does Naruto not feel fear in his heart? Of course not. At this moment, Naruto's knees are trembling slightly because of the threat of death. But if he uses his death to exchange for the hope of thousands of people, then Naruto is definitely willing to do so. Because his ability is strong enough to crush any enemy, using his own strength to defeat people who harm the world, such a person can definitely be called a good person. But when his ability is not enough, he is willing to sacrifice his life to save others. Such a person deserves the title of hero. A real hero is not a person who deliberately pursues the title of hero. A true hero was actually someone who followed his or her own heart to live and save others. A strong person was not necessarily a hero, but a hero must have the heart of a strong person. Come on. Come on. Come on. Naruto roared in his heart, but his expression was extraordinarily calm. What Naruto needs now is not to be blinded by his own blood. What Naruto needs now is to calmly calculate and make full use of every second he can. When the golden longsword was about to reach him, and Naruto was about to release the Nine Tails chakra in his body regardless of his safety, a black flame arrow was directly inserted in front of Naruto, blocking the golden longsword. Katan Kagutsuki. The dark Amaterasu flame was molded and turned into an arrow on the longbow in his hand and released. Sasuke is here? The moment he saw the Amaterasu arrow, Naruto knew that Sasuke is here. Although Naruto's heart is not so calm after being saved by his best friend and his competitor Uchiha Sasuke again and again, but regaining the hope of life also made Naruto's heart feel a little joy. Yakushi Kabuto. Masked Man. You playing with other people's souls is a small matter for me, but you should not have involved my brother in it. I want all of you to know how much you've regretted what you've done. At this moment, Sasuke can be said to be quite angry, his cheeks that were almost paralyzed were slightly distorted. If there is something in Uchiha Sasuke's heart that must not be touched, then Sasuke's brother Itachi Uchiha must be second to none. In Sasuke's heart, his brother has experienced too much pain. Almost all the darkness in the shinobi world was imposed on his brother, but Itachi Uchiha was still able to bear such pain for him, struggling to survive between Akatsuki and Woodleaf Village. Although his brother is dead, in fact, from Sasuke's point of view, his brother leaving this world is actually a relief. But now, because of his own selfish desires, Kabuto disturbed his brother's peace after his death, and made his brother directly become a marionette in Kabuto's hands. For Sasuke, such a thing is simply unforgivable. Just as Uchiha Sasuke's mind was agitated, a crow suddenly emerged from Sasuke's body. The crow itself is Itachi Uchiha's summon beast. Few people in the shinobi world use such a summon beast. When Sasuke saw that his brother's summon beast suddenly appeared in his body, he was also surprised. What made Sasuke even more surprised was not that a crow came out of his body, but that there was a Manjikyu Sharingan in the shape of a four-cornered pinwheel in the crow's eyes. Sasuke had never seen this Manjikyu Sharingan before, but before Sasuke could react, the Manjikyu pattern in the crow's eyes rotated at high speed. Manjikyu Dojitsu, Koto Amatsukami. Uchiha Shirsue's Manjikyu Sharingan has an ability that is almost against cognition, that is, forcibly changing the will of the subject. Such a statement is actually a bit vague and uncertain, because the so-called change, what kind of restrictions the change has, and what kind of effects it will trigger, we don't know. Although Koto Amatsukami is a kind of genjutsu, from its function, it is closer to touching the most essential rules of the world. Although there is no way to figure out what principle Koto Amatsukami uses to play its role, at this moment, Koto Amatsukami seems to be directly cast on Itachi Uchiha, who was controlled by Kabuto, like a transcription ninjutsu. The will that was distorted by the charm was corrected again at this moment, and the thick black-gray color in Itachi Uchiha's eyes gradually faded. Although his body and eyes still have the characteristics of Edo Tensei, at this moment, Itachi Uchiha's eyes have regained their clarity. Seeing Sasuke wrapped in the complete Susanoo, Itachi's eyes flashed with a hint of relief, but Itachi didn't talk to Sasuke first. Instead, he controlled his Susanoo to walk towards the place where Naruto defeated Nagato just now. He waved the golden sword in Susanoo's hand and directly slashed Nagato, who had turned black but still showed signs of recovery. A shadow was pulled out of Nagato's body, and the scorched body, which originally had a human shape, immediately collapsed, leaving only a somewhat broken white Zetsu clone in it. Sasuke, you've grown up. Looking at his younger brother, Itachi finally spoke the first sentence with his own voice. The moment he heard Itachi's voice, Sasuke's eyes also turned red. Coming from his brother's praise, the anger in Sasuke's heart slowly subsided. After all, although he was very angry that his brother's soul was pulled back into this world, being able to talk to his brother again is also a thing that makes Sasuke sincerely happy. Releasing the Susanoo wrapped around him, Sasuke slowly walked towards his brother. Chapter 631. Itachi Uchiha and Uchiha Sasuke are actually very similar people. Even if his heart has been stormy, there is still no way to express the feelings in his heart. The two men stood face to face, facing each other silently, but people could feel the deep feelings between the two brothers. Unknowingly, the child who relied on me has now become a stronger person than me. Sasuke, you did a good job. In the end, in the silence of the two, Itachi Uchiha spoke first. I didn't do well, my eyes. Looking at Itachi, Sasuke's suppressed sadness finally broke out. Raising his head, Sasuke revealed the eyes he took from his father. The eternal Manjikyu Sharingan pattern intertwined with 3 pinwheels and 6 pointed stars appeared so clearly in Sasuke's eyes. Itachi also saw the pattern in his brother's eyes and couldn't help but be silent. Itachi Uchiha knew that his father had the power of Manjikyu Sharingan, and he also saw what kind of pattern his father had. Looking at the pattern in Sasuke's eyes at this moment, Itachi knew that his father gave his own eyes to Sasuke, so that Sasuke had the power beyond Manjikyu. Originally, Itachi thought that Sasuke would transplant his eyes into his eyes, but he didn't expect that Sasuke would transplant Uchiha Fugaku's eyes into his own eyes. But on second thought, as one of the few people in the world who knew Sasuke best, Itachi also understood Sasuke's mood. The cold face showed a bit of gentleness, just like a mountain peak that was covered with snow all year round was suddenly illuminated by the sun, and then reflected the warm and soft light. At this moment, Itachi looked extremely gentle. Putting his hand on Sasuke's shoulder, Itachi said to Sasuke, "It's okay, I understand your mood. It's not your fault. If it were me, it's likely that I would make the same choice as you. But since you're wearing his eyes, you have to be prepared for others to associate the two of them with this pair of eyes." Although in Itachi's heart, Naruto is a trustworthy person, but after all, Naruto is the son of the 4th Hokage Wave Watergate, so when mentioning Uchiha Fugaku and his mother, Itachi is very careful to hide Uchiha Fugaku's name. Sasuke didn't think so much, but Sasuke could fully understand the meaning of Itachi's words. Blinking his eyes, Sasuke regained his calmness and said to Itachi, "Don't worry, Itachi. Don't worry, they are all staying in a very safe place. Even if the 4th Shinobi World War comes, they won't be affected. I will use the power I got from him well. It's not only for the sake of realizing my dream in life, but also for the sake of the Uchiha clan." Although the extermination of the Uchiha clan had a lot to do with Itachi, from the bottom of his heart, Itachi actually hopes that his clan can continue. At that time, the proud and arrogant Uchiha clan was not what the Uchiha clan should be like in Itachi's mind. On the contrary, Sasuke, who has grown up now, looks more calm and introverted, but he doesn't deliberately hide it when it's time to show off. If the Uchiha clan is led by Sasuke, Itachi will naturally be very happy to see that the Uchiha clan can continue, right? Since I've already decided, I'll just focus on moving towards my goal. You are my proud brother, as long as you are willing to do something, you can do it. When he heard the words proud brother from Itachi's mouth, Sasuke couldn't help but feel a little sour at the tip of his nose. For so many years, in order to stimulate Sasuke and let Sasuke maintain the hatred in his heart, Itachi will call Sasuke stupid brother every time they meet. When Itachi once again called Sasuke proud brother, Sasuke didn't know how to describe his mood. Brother. Seeing the agitation in Sasuke's eyes, Itachi gently put his finger on Sasuke's forehead, blocking all the words from Sasuke's chest. Sasuke, I understand that you are very excited to see me again. But after all, I am a person who has left this world. This time, I returned to this world because of a coincidence. For me, this world is no longer my world. Sasuke, do you understand what I mean? Yes, Itachi is already a dead person. The reason why he can appear in front of Sasuke again is that Kabuto used Edo Tensei to summon the dead Itachi Uchiha back to this world. From Sasuke's selfishness, in fact, Sasuke hopes that his brother can stay in this world with his own will, but there is still Kabuto behind Itachi Uchiha, and he was deeply hurt by Ninja World. Sasuke can't bear to let Itachi stay in Ninja World in such a half-dead state again. I understand. Trying to keep his brain from being controlled by his emotions, Sasuke almost gritted his teeth and said these 3 words. Itachi can obviously see that Sasuke's mood is not so good at the moment, but Itachi still wants Sasuke to recognize such a fact. As a living person, no matter what the reason is, he can't be so obsessed with the dead, even if this person is so important to him. Let's go, let's end all this illogical. Looking at Sasuke, Itachi said firmly. Of course, Sasuke didn't forget Uzumaki Naruto, who was still here, and slowly walked to Naruto's side and said to Naruto, "Naruto, I'm sorry that I can't catch up with you properly. You go back to the headquarters of the Ninja Allied Forces first. My brother and I will be back soon." Ignoring how Naruto would react, Sasuke turned around and left. Looking at the backs of Sasuke and Itachi, Naruto's hand couldn't help but clench tightly. At this moment, the unwillingness in Naruto's heart was like a flame. Is he still too weak? You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.